Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. I, the Scientist, start by cloning Kaido. Chapter 21. Celestial Dragon's sudden offer silenced the entire audience. Many people were shocked. How can 3 little girls with half-grown hair be worth 100 million? Several rich people who had previously made a bid put down their bidding cards. On the one hand, it was not worth 100 million. On the other hand, bidding with celestial dragons was getting tired of living, right? 100 million, once. 100 million, twice. On the stage, auctioneer Chibissel went crazy. Is there a higher bid? The whole place was silent. Suddenly, Edie stood up. Guest, what are you? The auctioneer was stunned for a moment. All eyes suddenly turned to Edie. Who is this person? I don't know, the man on the first floor, what does he want to do? Is this idiot trying to cause trouble? In front of God, is he crazy? Among the whispers, many people were shocked. The celestial dragons are angry and may kill everyone here. Let's do it. Edie calmly gave the order. He wanted to go through formal channels and buy devil fruit legally through auctions. But with the celestial dragons here, he might not be able to do that. And he also wants to take these 3 little girls with him, the 3 snake sisters. In this case, just buy it for 0 yuan. Ha ha ha, Lord Heavenly Father, don't you want to snatch it in the end? Zishu laughed, and the next moment, his eyes suddenly condensed. Boom! A wave of conquerors' hockey swept through the auction. At this moment, whether it is the participants on the first floor, the distinguished guests on the second floor, or the celestial dragons. In front of this conquerors, all living things are equal. Bah! Conquerors! Some pirates recognized this power and looked horrified. But it was too late. Almost everyone's consciousness was shocked, everyone rolled their eyes, and fainted one after another. While Zishu took action, Chenlong was not to be outdone. He immediately broke into the auction backstage and quickly found the devil fruit as the finale item. By the time Edie walked to the stage and stood in front of the iron cage where the 3 snake sisters were imprisoned, Chenlong had already returned and knelt on one knee to offer the devil fruit. Heavenly Father, this is what you want. In the cage, the 3 snake sisters were stunned. The panic and anxiety subsided slightly, their minds went blank, and the 3 little girls opened their mouths in a shape of O. Boya Hancock looked at Edie with a dull face. Edie reached out and opened the small treasure box where the devil fruit was stored, and confirmed that there was indeed a devil fruit inside. He closed the treasure box and his eyes fell on the 3 Snake G sisters. Name: Po, Boya Hancock. The 12-year-old young empress replied nervously, they are my sisters, Sandersonia, Marigold. Are you the child of the current emperor of the Daughter Kingdom? Hancock shook his head hastily. I am a warrior of 9 snakes, you are. Edie, the scientist. Edie had a faint smile on his face. If I don't save you, the 3 of you will be bought by the celestial dragons and become humble slaves. Celestial dragons, do you know? The 3 sisters shook their heads together, their frequencies synchronized. Not to mention the celestial dragons, they had never even seen a man before. You will know later how lucky you are to have met me. Zishu, open the cage. Upon hearing the order, Zishu immediately drew out the samurai sword from his waist. The sword flashed and the iron cage was cut in half. Then, he reached out and grabbed the slave collars around the necks of the 3 sisters. The 3 sisters were immediately startled and huddled together in fear. Hancock said hurriedly, This collar has a bomb built into it. It can't be opened without a key. Before she could finish her words, Zishu quickly took off the collar. Armament hockey's internal damage easily destroyed the collar's internal mechanical structure. However, the next second, the ticking sound still sounded. Throw it away and you want to blow yourself up. Master Heavenly Father, this thing is quite interesting. If the inside is damaged, the bomb will still be activated. Saying this, Zishu threw the broken collar into the air. Boom! A ball of fire flashed and smoke billowed. Hancock opened his eyes wide again. Okay, that's awesome. How did you do this? The 2 sisters looked at Edie hopefully. Boom! Boom! 2 more explosions. The purpose has been achieved, let's go. Edie took the lead and walked outside the auction venue. The 3 sisters who had regained their freedom looked at each other. Sister. The 2 younger sisters had no choice but to look at their eldest sister. Let's follow. Hancock made a quick choice. Recalling the suffering he suffered these days, Hancock felt that Edie was simply Prince Charming. Prince Charming, who did not ride a white horse but wore white clothes, saved the three sisters from the dark world. As for Zishu and Qianlong, they are of course the knights of Prince Charming. Well, she knew this all from secretly reading fairy tale books. A group of people walked out of the auction door. Zishu suddenly raised his head and said, "Heavenly Father, there is a powerful aura approaching this way, very fast. Oh, we're here." As soon as he finished speaking, a golden light flashed in the distance. The golden light hit the trunk of the Archiman mangrove tree not far away. After reflection, it headed straight towards the auction. This light gathered not far away from Edie and others, and then countless light points flickered, gradually condensing into a tall figure. The person who came was wearing a yellow shirt, a white t-shirt, and a black cowboy hat, with a cigarette hanging sideways in his mouth. "Hey, brother over there, please ask, I received information that Celestial Dragons was attacked. Do you know anything?" The man lit a cigarette for himself and spoke slowly. To be honest, if it weren't for Logia Sparkling Fruit's ability, Edie didn't even recognize it, but the man in front of him turned out to be Admiral Kizaru, the third Marine in the future. "Porisalino," Edie said with a smile on his face, "are you the Vice Admiral now?" Kizaru lit a cigarette for himself and was stunned for a moment. The Celestial Dragons were attacked. "It should be Admiral. You are a social creature, why are you joining in the fun?" "Kizaru, and you're in the wrong place. The one being attacked was Area 2 next door." Kizaru twisted his lips. "Stop lying." Edie chuckled. "Maybe it's true. So it was you who did it." "I'm sorry, little brother, I happened to be on official duty." As soon as he finished speaking, Kizaru's body was filled with golden light. "Have you ever been hit by a lightspeed kick?" There was a sound in his ears, and with the convergence of photons, Kizaru had already approached to Edie's right side. A long raised leg, shining with dazzling golden light, suddenly kicked out. His photon movement is indeed very fast, but the reaction of the submouse is much faster. Too slow, Marine. Zishu stepped forward, the blade in his hand wrapped around Conqueror's hockey, and the dark sword energy came first. God avoids. Kizaru's pupils shrank suddenly, and before his light speed kick could hit Edie, the black sword energy had already landed on him. Whoosh! The whole person flew out like a missile, faster than the speed of sound. From the door of the auction house, it flew straight through the entire area, flew thousands of meters away, and finally hit the trunk of the Yarkman mangrove with GR number 1 written on it with a loud bang. PFF'd. Cough, cough, cough. Kizaru is like a big character, which is embedded in the trunk of the mangrove tree. Large streams of blood spilled from his mouth. What monster? What just happened was Conqueror's entanglement. What monster? Kizaru was shocked inside. A power that only a handful of strong men at the top can master. He was seriously injured in one move. Too careless. Kizaru recalled his teacher, Marine Admiral Zephyr, who often commented that he relied too much on fruit abilities. This is a bloody lesson. Relying on the elementalization of sparkling fruit, I wanted to get close and quickly subdue the opponent, but when others counterattacked, I couldn't even dodge the elementalization. It's so scary. Who is he? Kizaru smiled bitterly and swallowed the blood in his mouth. In this case, we can only delay for time and wait for reinforcements. I am afraid that it will be difficult for me to take down these daring prisoners by myself. Thinking of this, his beaten body that was embedded in the trunk of the mangrove turned into endless photons. With a whoosh, a beam of golden light rose into the air. 8-foot beautiful Magatama. Kizaru transforms into a dazzling golden cross star. The star shines brightly and shines brightly. It's so dazzling. Edie raised his hand to block the bright light. The three snake sisters who followed him hid behind him in fear. Hancock grabbed the corners of his white coat and could only silently cheer for Prince Charming in his heart. Dense rain of light falls. Zishu grinned and swung the katana in his hand quickly, and the flying sword energy came up against the light rain. In midair, a series of explosions sounded. Boom, boom, boom. The two sides were in a stalemate for several minutes. Suddenly, the rain of light dissipated. Kizaru pointed and locked Edie. You are the boss. Arrow of light. The golden light burst out from his fingertips, and after a short period of energy accumulation, it turned into a bunch of golden arrows and shot out towards Edie. Edie just smiled faintly. Qianlong's figure flashed and stood in front of him. He raised his hand and grabbed the arrow of light, then squeezed it hard. Puff! The arrow of light was crushed into pieces and turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Hey, Marine, your opponent is me. As one of the earthly branches, Zishu is slightly different from the other two. He is more warlike and likes the feeling of fighting. Seeing that Kizaru was ignoring him, he immediately jumped up and rushed towards Kizaru in midair, sweeping the katana in his hand towards him. Cold sweat dripped from Kizaru's forehead, and he immediately transformed into a sword of light in his hand. He held it with both hands, raised it high, and slashed at the rat. Boom! The two weapons collided, and Kizaru was knocked away by the sword. No energy left. Marine. Zishu laughed, and the black wings on his back instantly opened. His wings trembled, and the next moment, he quickly pursued Kizaru, who was flying backwards. The two quickly fought together. From the sky to the ground, Kizaru was exhausted. He was already seriously injured and was just struggling to hold on. Who are you? Kizaru gasped and kept waving his lightsaber to resist Zishu's sharp moves. With your level of strength, you are not a nobody, right? Moreover, his opponent's sword moves were somewhat familiar to him. 12 earthly branches, rat. Zishu smiled cheerfully and said, ha ha ha, enjoy the battle, Marine. Previously in Wano, he couldn't find anyone to stretch his muscles, and Qianlong and Shinho had no interest in fighting him. He finally met a decent opponent today, and he felt very happy. 12 earthly branches. Kizaru was shocked. This was obviously an organization. From the corner of his eye, he quickly glanced at Edie not far away, and Qianlong, who was always guarding Edie. The other one is also an earthly branch. The one in the white coat is the boss. Edie walked to the Yarkman mangrove tree, collected Kizaru's blood from the tree, and immediately said with satisfaction, let's go, Qianlong. Yes, Qianlong transformed into a huge green dragon. Dragon. The three snake sisters were immediately startled. Could the big man next to them turn into a dragon? Edie took the three sisters onto the dragon's head, and the green dragon quickly climbed up. Zishu, who was suppressing Kizaru with his sword skills, looked at it and said helplessly, hey, it seems that Heavenly Father is impatient with waiting. Goodbye, Marine. Next time we meet, be a little stronger. As he spoke, he knocked back Kizaru with a sword, then flapped his wings and returned to Edie. Kizaru kept panting and covered his abdomen with his left hand. The area where he had been hit by the bully had no external injuries, but his internal organs were bleeding profusely. He looked at the sky in astonishment. Qianlong. Kaido. No, not Kaido. He had fought against Kaido, and Kaido was much larger. What's the matter? The scene in front of him was so shocking that Kizaru was completely confused for a moment. Hey, little brother, do you want to run away? Kizaru couldn't care less and immediately started taunting. While mocking, he pointed to the sky, photons gathered, and an extremely dazzling golden light burst out from his fingertips. Above the dragon's head, Edie was startled, then laughed and said, how much is Vice Admiral's monthly salary? How much does it cost to work so hard? Qianlong. Hot breath. Qianlong opened his mouth and breathed out, and blazing flames descended from the sky. Kizaru's face was stiff, and he was ready to strike with a strike. The arrow of light was instantly destroyed by the high-temperature flames. The dragon's breath swallowed Kizaru and penetrated the ground of the Sabayati archipelago. Straight into the ocean. Boom! There was a loud bang, and a fireball hundreds of meters in diameter dyed the sky red. The seawater evaporated by the high temperature turned into thick steam, which filled the area around the Yarkman mangroves in Area 1. Real men never look back to see the explosion. Edie rode the blue dragon and disappeared into the sky in a blink of an eye. What a terrible young man. A middle-aged man with a straight scar on his right eye said with a grin on a horizontal branch of the Yarkman mangrove tree. He has a blonde hair, round glasses, a straight beard, and a small iron jug in his hand. The blonde man raised his head and took a sip. The sword moved just now, divine avoidance. Who could it be? Roger's disciple. I haven't heard that he has any disciples. After being confused for a moment, the blonde man's ears twitched slightly and he heard the sound of running footsteps. Oh, Marine is here. Covering the wine bottle, the blonde man left the place in a blink of an eye. After he left, Marine came belatedly. When they saw the situation at the scene, they all looked pale and fearful. What happened to make this happen? The island was penetrated, and in the huge gap with a diameter of more than 100 meters, the roots of the Yarkman mangroves, which were charred black at the break, could be seen. Is it caused by the explosion just now? The base commander stationed on this island had a heavy expression on his face. Suddenly, at the edge of the gap in front, countless light spots flickered, and a figure condensed out, sitting motionless on the ground, just panting. Kizaru, Vice Admiral. The base commander was stunned. What happened? I received intelligence that the celestial dragons were attacked. Who knows? Kizaru scratched his head and stood up tiredly. I'm seriously injured. Help me ask for a long leave from the headquarters, with pay. He suddenly felt that what that person said made sense. Vice Admiral's monthly salary is only a few dollars, why is he working so hard? A few hours later, Naval Headquarters, conference room. Kizaru sat helplessly on the chair, with two nurses beside him cleaning his wounds. Hey, it hurts, what are you rubbing? Kizaru, Vice Admiral, is a disinfectant to prevent wound infection. The nurse replied with a smile. Boom. Marshal Kong pounded the table angrily. Pelusalino. Since you happened to be in Sabayati Archipelago, why didn't you stop the prisoner? It's such a treasonous thing like attacking celestial dragons. If you let people go, how can I explain to the superiors? Quote. Should I stop you with your head? Kizaru twisted his mouth, not knowing how to explain it. Marshal, you may not believe it. I faced Kaido and Roger at the same time, as well as an unknown boss. Would you like to listen to what you are talking about? Sora frowned. What is this talking about? At this time, another person walked into the conference room. Sora immediately asked, Sengoku, how is the situation? It has been investigated clearly. Sengoku said in a deep voice. The three saints of Niford were attending the auction and were suddenly attacked by Conqueror's Haki. Everyone at the scene fainted. There were 3 criminals in total. Although no photos were taken, according to the description. Speaking of this, he remembered what happened half a year ago. Half a year ago, the Gaia Island incident and the Logue Town sighting incident. Hearing this, Kong's expression changed. What do you mean? Yes, it should be him. Kizaru on the side was confused. What kind of riddler are these 2 people doing? He remembered the swordsman's self-introduction and immediately said, by the way, one of those people claims to be Zishu, one of the 12 earthly branches. The other one has Kaido's blue dragon fruit ability, but he is not Kaido. It seems to be called Chen Long. Kong and Sengoku's breaths were stagnant. What are you talking about? There are 12 people in the 12 earthly branches. It is obvious that the 12 earthly branches have 12 members. But before that, neither Kong nor Sengoku had heard of this organization. Only half a year ago. Gaia Island incident. Logue Town sightings. Other than that, there is almost no intelligence. The name of scientist Edie is not in Marine's intelligence system, and no such person has been found. I asked Crocodile about what happened half a year ago, and he was the person involved. According to his statement, he met scientist Edie in Magic Valley Town. After being defeated and taken away, Edie just asked him a few questions and quickly let him go. Sengoku recalled. As for what specifically was asked, there was no answer. Crocodile also has something to say. Everyone serves the world government. Naval headquarters and 7 warlords of the sea are not superior subordinate relationships, and there is no need to report everything in detail. Although I don't know what the specific question was, there was a Logue Town sighting that night. At that time, Garp was on vacation in East Blue. The report he submitted after being sent to investigate the next day stated that nothing happened in Logue Town. There are only 2 pieces of useful information. 1. The name of scientist Edie. 2. This person had a space-type fruit ability, and he disappeared in front of him in an instant, along with his fellow travelers. What was their purpose in attacking the celestial dragons this time despite not caring about it half a year ago? Kong frowned deeply. They took 2 items from the auction. A devil fruit, and 3 little girls. Speaking of this, Sengoku's tone was a little unhappy, but that was all. Human auction is a legal business in the Sabayati Archipelago. Marine has no right to control it, and besides, the celestial dragons like it. As the purpose devil fruit. Kong picked up the pen and wrote something on the paper. Scientist Edie, suspected to be the leader of the 12 earthly branches, has space-like abilities. Qinglong, one of the 12 earthly branches, can transform into the magical beast Qinglong, similar to Kaido, but not the same person. Zishu, one of the 12 earthly branches, has swordsmanship similar to that of the late pirate King Roger, but he is younger. The 12 earthly branches are suspected to have 12 members. Except for Qinglong and Zishu, the other 10 are unknown. Kizaru, the person you are fighting against is Zishu. How strong is this person? Kizaru was in a state of emptying his mind throughout the whole process, but he suddenly came to his senses when he was suddenly asked by the marshal. That guy can even wrap around conquerors. I'm no match for him. By the way, he has a pair of black wings on his back. Although he's wearing a mask, part of his exposed hair is white. I think he might be from the Lunaria tribe. Hearing this, Sengoku's pupils shrank. Really? Did he use divine fire during the battle? Well, Kizaru was speechless. Although it is suspected that Zishu is from the Lunalia clan, Zishu has indeed never used the mysterious flames of that clan. As for the reason, because there was no need at all, they suppressed him the whole time. Enough. White hair, black wings. Except for the Lunaria, there is no other race like this. At this time, Kong stood up suddenly. I am going to the Holy Land, and I must report this matter to the 5 elders. The Lunaria clan has a lot at stake. He even suspected that the so-called 12 earthly branches were all from the Lunaria clan. The reason this organization exists is to take revenge on the world government. Kizaru may not know it very well, but he understands it very well. A long time ago, the Lunaria tribe lived in the kingdom of gods on the Red Line. The Holy Land where the celestial dragons now live is built on the ruins of that clan. Seeing the marshal leave, Kizaru hurriedly said, my long vacation, bring new ones. Go back in time a little. A green dragon soars thousands of meters in the sky. Above the dragon's head, after the 3 sisters Shiji experienced the initial panic, they soon became excited. It's the first time in my life that I can ride a dragon and fly in the sky. Wow, so awesome. We are flying in the sky, Oni-sama. The 2 sisters sat on their knees, their excitement palpable. Hancock was also a little excited, but in order to maintain the dignity of the eldest sister, he could only pretend to be strict. Is now the time to enjoy the scenery. You should express your gratitude to your benefactor. She took her 2 sisters and bowed to Edie together. Thank you for saving us, bye. Master Edie. Almost shouting out Prince Charming, Hancock's face turned slightly red. He couldn't let others know that he had secretly read the fairy tale book. Edie turned around and looked at the 3 sisters. Her expression couldn't help but be a little subtle. She wanted to laugh but couldn't. The image of the pirate queen popped into my mind. No matter what I do, I will be forgiven because I am so beautiful. The pirate empress will say something like this when she grows up. In comparison, when I was a child, I was quite cute and at least very polite. Keep your head up. Edie smiled gently. Yes. The 3 sisters all raised their heads and felt their hearts melting when faced with this sunny smile. A week ago, he was touched by human traffickers on the ship of the 9 Snakes pirates, forcibly abducted, sent to an auction, and sold as a slave. Looking back, it was a nightmare. Compared with the previous nightmare, Master Edie's smile was like a ray of sunshine, dispelling the darkness that enveloped them. Why does a man smile so beautifully? Hancock was in a state of mind and shook his head violently. No, since he was caught, everyone else has been an ugly villain. Only Prince Charming is as dazzling as the sun. Quote. Edie saw the girl shaking her head thinking about herself, and couldn't guess what the little girl was thinking. The first time in life is always unforgettable. He still doesn't understand that he has suddenly become the white moonlight and Prince Charming in Hancock's heart. Hancock, Sonia, Mary. Edie spoke softly. Yes. I will take you back to Wano first, and then notify your families and ask them to pick you up. Rescuing the 3 Snake sisters was just a matter of convenience. He had no interest in sending people back to Daughter Island. If you want to take these 3 little girls back, let the captain of the 9 Snakes pirates do it himself. Wano. Hancock looked curious. A secluded country of warriors, where my research institute is. Edie smiled and said, before your family comes to pick you up, you just stay in my research institute. After a pause, the conversation changed. Of course, the Institute does not support idle people, and it is not a good habit to live and eat for free. Hancock's big eyes sparkled. She was already very curious about the world outside Daughter Island, and now she was excited about the opportunity to visit a country she had never seen before. Master Edie, I can hunt, wash clothes, and cook. We, the people of Daughter Island, are born warriors. Right, Sonia, Mary, we will work hard. The two younger sisters nodded like garlic and agreed with their elder sister's words. Edie couldn't help but wonder. Is this little girl really the same person as the Empress? Well behaved and cute. Edie couldn't help but touch Hancock's hair. Hancock was often unhappy when others treated her like a child. Especially the members of the Nine Snakes Pirates. She thinks she is already an outstanding Nine Snakes warrior. But facing Edie's touch, I unexpectedly felt relieved. Little Hancock, you have Conqueror's qualifications. I have been studying hockey recently, and your appearance has been of great help to my research. So, let's draw the blood first. Hancock was feeling warm from the touch of his head, and then he heard his white moonlight say something captivating. That night, Edie took the three snake sisters back to Wano. The second floor of the Institute is the living area. There are many rooms. It is more than enough to arrange a guest room for the three sisters. The three sisters could not conceal their excitement about suddenly arriving in a new country, and they stayed awake all night. Edie ignored the three little girls for the time being and took a tube of Hancock's blood as he wished. In the laboratory late at night, the lights are always on. Edie performed the necessary preservation and treatment on Kizaru's blood and Hancock's blood, and put them together with other people's blood. He now has 2 copies of the Logia ability user's blood. One portion is crocodile, sand fruit. The other one is the blood of Kizaru, sparkling fruit, which I just bought. If necessary, a tube can be extracted from Geisa. Yes, Geisa is also a user with Logia ability, Logia gas fruit. Put Logia aside for now. I haven't found a way to make Logia into an ability ring yet. Hancock's blood can be used to study the relationship between conquerors and bloodline factors, but there is no rush. Let's take a look at the devil fruit we just got. Edie took out the small treasure box and opened it. There was a devil fruit lying quietly inside. The fruit is pear-shaped, and its surface is covered with the unique spiral pattern of devil fruit. Edie has never seen the devil fruit picture label and cannot tell what kind of fruit it is. But it doesn't matter, it's not for eating anyway, it's just for research. He cut the devil fruit open, took out a small piece of pulp, and extracted the blood factor from it. After that, the bloodline factors were tested and analyzed in detail. So, the whole night passed. When the sun rose in the Flower City, Edie walked out of the laboratory with a sigh of relief. One night of research made him understand something. Regarding how to use fruit to recycle devil fruit, he had a vague clue. In addition, the biggest result is that he found the similarity of animals from the blood factor of this devil fruit. This is probably a zone devil fruit, and it's most likely a dog, wolf, or something like that. Rumor has it that the zone devil fruit contains consciousness. He had no clue about this. Consciousness or something, it's so bizarre, maybe it's related to the soul. It's a pity that he knows nothing about souls and has never dabbled in it. Hey, it would be nice if people didn't have to sleep, they could keep researching, and maybe they would be able to figure out a way to recycle devil fruit soon. Edie sighed deeply in his heart. Master Heavenly Father, Qianlong stood outside the laboratory door all night, like a statue. Normally there is no need to stay by my side all the time. This is not okay, I will always protect your safety. Qianlong insisted. What should I do if my subordinates are too loyal? Edie scratched his somewhat messy hair and asked, where are the 3 girls? They got up half an hour ago, and after asking where the kitchen was, they have been making breakfast in the kitchen. Yeah, Edie was surprised. The kitchen of the Institute has never been used. Before that, he lived alone and could eat enough when he went out to a restaurant not far away. Speaking of which, go to Daughter's Island and tell the Emperor of Daughter's Island to pick him up. Edie remembered something and gave an order. He guessed that the other party didn't dare to come. After all, Wano was the territory of Kaido, one of the 3 emperors. The activities of the Kuja pirates are not in the New World. Just out of politeness, let me inform the other person, your child is here with me, don't worry. Whether the other party believes it or not and whether he dares to come is not within Edie's consideration. By the way, now that there are abundant funds, the cloning laboratory must be built as soon as possible. When you return from Daughter's Island, you should immediately contact Dufelder and purchase a batch of equipment through his channels. I will give you the goods list later. As for the destination of the entrusted transportation. At this point, Edie grinned. Beehive Island. Beehive Island. Pirate Paradise. Qianlong was startled, but he didn't ask any more questions. He would only follow the order faithfully. Edie returned to the laboratory, and after a moment, he came out with a list of goods. Many of the items above can only be purchased through the black market, and the total cost is estimated to be 25 billion. Understood. Qianlong took the list and immediately left the research institute to perform the task. Du Field, one of the emperors of the Dark World, his main business is loan sharking, also known as the Loan Shark King. Of course, this person also has many other businesses, such as helping to purchase some world government contraband. For example, many laboratory equipment cannot be purchased through formal channels and can only be purchased from the black market at a premium. This is not the first time Edie has dealt with this person. What's more, this person was the original sponsor of the Mads Peace Research Institute, and was often defrauded of funds by Vegapunk and others. Once, in order to support his charity industry, Dufair commissioned Vegapunk to develop a firework representing peace. Therefore, Vegapunk developed GP flower, a flower that can bloom in gunpowder. Then, Vegapunk won the Ibel Peace Prize. Quinn told him these things. When the equipment arrives on Honeycomb Island, we will build a cloning laboratory as soon as possible and then clone a batch of mass-produced soldiers. Edie plans to learn from Vinsmoke Judge and create an army of clones. As for why we chose Beehive Island, the reason is very simple. That is a place where the power of world government cannot radiate. Secondly, Beehive Island is a paradise for pirates and an island where pirates gather. On that island, power is truth, and whoever has the biggest fist is the master of the hive. After gathering her thoughts, Edie turned and went upstairs to have breakfast with the three snake sisters. 2 days later, the celestial dragon's attack in the Sabayati archipelago finally made the news. Marine originally wanted to suppress the news, but after all, no one was caught, and the news would have a bad impact on Marine. But Morgans, the boss of World Economic News and one of the emperors of the Dark World, obviously did not listen to Marine's request. Nicknamed the News King, this person is always in pursuit of big news, and he even doesn't hesitate to make up random news. Then, shock, celestial dragons attack, who is the mysterious scientist? Close double angle bracket. A piece of news that shocked the world quickly spread throughout the Grand Line with the delivery of tens of thousands of news birds. Edie was reported in the news, but without a name, referred to only as a mysterious scientist. Instead, the news focuses on two of Edie's subordinates, Zishu and Qianlong. A mysterious great swordsman, the other one, transformed into a blue dragon, penetrated the Sabayati archipelago with a dragon's breath. The latter even kindly took photos. The large hole in Area 1 of the Sabayati archipelago. Marine cannot hide this. On the day this news spread around the world, Marine immediately issued a reward order and announced the name of the mysterious scientist. In addition to the head bounty, even if you provide any relevant clues, you can get a bounty of 100 million belly. Suddenly, bounty hunters around the world went crazy. The big news that shocked the world made a lot of noise, and bounty hunters all over the world were frantically looking for traces of Edie. Who is Edie? A scientist, hey ha ha ha, attacking celestial dragons in Sabayati archipelago, scary and scary. Qianlong, Zishu, this name is so strange, some kind of title. Just for providing clues, you can get 100 million Baileys. Such a beautiful thing doesn't happen every day. Brothers, I'm going to make a fortune first, you can do whatever you want. Bounty hunters around the world gather to discuss the news. The world is prosperous, all for profit. The world is full of hustle and bustle, all for the benefit of others. Marine is willing to promise a lot of money, so naturally countless people will work hard on their behalf. However, Wano is a closed country, a ghost place where even news birds don't come. Edie didn't know it at first, but it was only the abnormal increase in scientific research reputation in a short period of time that caught his attention. However, he soon knew it. When Chenryu returned to Wano Kuni after completing his mission, he brought back newspapers and several reward notices. Heavenly Father, look at these. I see, it's really because of this. Edie nodded suddenly after reading the news. You can get 100 million by providing your whereabouts, which is the same treatment as the Lunaria clan. I'm so excited. Why don't I just find someone to report me? Edie touched his chin, thinking about whether or not to FK his mother. This is free money. He first took people to visit other places, and then arranged for people to report him and get the bounty, which was very satisfying. Looking for collaboration with Crocodile. Edie considered the feasibility very seriously. Last time I met him, he seemed to be short of money. He is still a Shichibukai, and Marine didn't dare to ignore the bounty. 100 million at a time, dozens of times, that's billions. Qianlong, as expected of our Heavenly Father, his thinking is different from ordinary people. Ahem, the pattern needs to be big. Put aside those who are harvesting Marine's wool. Compared with this, what's going on with these bounty orders? Edie pulled out 3 reward notices from the bottom of the newspaper. When he saw the portraits on them, he suddenly had a stunned expression on his face. Similar to Sanji's bounty, it's a completely abstract painting. Marine didn't take any photos of his handsome face, so he probably drew a portrait based on Kizaru's verbal description. The key is that it doesn't matter what he is painting, but he is still painted so abstractly. The self in the picture perfectly fits the image of an evil scientist. Evil scientist, Edie, no matter life or death. Bounty, 1.8 billion Baileys. Apart from him, the 2 subordinates were much more normal. Because they have no faces at all, they all wear ghost face masks. Although they are also painted, the masks are well painted. Qianlong, no matter life or death. Bounty, 1 billion Baileys. Rat, no matter life or death. Bounty, 1 billion Baileys. Sir Heavenly Father, Marine dares to want us. Why don't you let me go to naval headquarters and kill them all? Qianlong suggested loyally. Edie, if you go alone, you may never come back. Forget it, spare them once. Edie calmed down Qianlong's turbulent loyal heart. One day he will clone a few earthly branches and go to naval headquarters to bring bad luck. Well, he will ask them for mental damage compensation. I sent him a wanted warrant for nothing, it scared him to death. Looking at it from another perspective, this is a good thing. In the blink of an eye, the reputation of scientific research is almost full again. Edie thought to herself, but correspondingly, she was a little troubled. Of course it's not about the reward order. Instead, the newspaper disclosed Qianlong's ability to transform into a blue dragon. Although Wano Kuni is closed to the outside world, Kaido, as one of the pirate emperors of the New World, is not closed to the public. Not surprisingly, Kaido also got the newspaper now. Kaido must be concerned about the second dragon appearing in the world, and he might ask him for the truth later. Just as I was thinking about it, several beasts pirates came outside the institute. Sir Edie. The visitor greeted him respectfully first, and then explained his purpose. Sir Kaido invites you to attend today's dinner to celebrate the complete suppression of Wano Kuni's samurai rebellion. This means Cao Cao will arrive. Edie smiled and said, I know, I will participate. After seeing off the pirate who had sent the order, Qianlong immediately said, Father, do you want to kill Kaido? Ah, Kaido must suspect that you have cloned his fruit ability. It might be detrimental to you at the dinner party. It's better to strike first. Quote. Edie was speechless and choked. Qianlong's loyalty is indeed no problem, but he wants to destroy naval headquarters and kill Kaido. But honestly, with the combat power he currently possesses, he might actually be able to kill Kaido. It's just that there is no big benefit in killing Kaido, and it also loses a stable scientific research fund. He and Kaido have no conflict of interest. On the contrary, they are still cooperative allies. Qianlong, the world of pirates is not about fighting and killing, but about human relationships. Go and inform Zishu and bring Shenhu and Gaisa with you. Clear. After seeing Qianlong off, Edie turned around and went up to the second floor. Take out the key and open Tianyushi's door. The mother and daughter live a very quiet life here. Except that they cannot leave the institute at will, no one disturbs them. Mr. Edie. Tianyu was accompanying her daughter to teach Kazuki Hiyori the piano art. When she saw someone coming in, she immediately saluted in a gentle voice. Uncle Edie. Kazuki Hiyori also greeted timidly. The little girl thought of her brother. Momonosuke's brother didn't say hello properly and was sent away. Wano-kuni. I don't know how my brother is doing now. How are you living? Madam, little sister Hiyori. Edie nodded and said, I'm going to Kaido's dinner tonight. Now, the Beast's pirates have completely suppressed the Wano-kuni warriors and completely controlled the country. Hearing this, Tianyu shook his head slightly and showed no concern for Wano-kuni's current situation. Mr. Edie, I just want to live a quiet life with my daughter from now on. Thank you very much for your blessing. Although it was Edie who forced her to stay here at first so that she could not escape to the future. But at the same time, it did protect her and her children. After getting used to the current life, Tianyu she gradually let go, because she understood that 20 years. No, everything will change in 19 years. Joey boy will be born in this country. Now she just wants to live a quiet life and grow up with her daughter. Mrs. Shi, I might have a conflict with Kaido at today's dinner. If something unexpected happens, I might have to kill Kaido. For this I need the 2 knives in your hands, please give them to me. Edie's tone was calm, as if he was telling something trivial. Tianyu Shi's long eyelashes trembled slightly, but she quickly lowered her eyes and moved the corners of her soft lips, wanting to ask but not daring to ask. Kill Kaido. Edie smiled inwardly and said he didn't care, but deep down he still cared. A duplicitous woman. I understand, Mr. Edie, please be careful. After a moment of silence, Tianyu Shi felt that he had no position to ask. He just sighed lightly, stood up and took down 2 samurai swords from the sword holder. One of the 21 skills of the Great Knife, Yama. One of the 21 skills of the Great Knife, Tianyu slash. These are the weapons that Kazuki Oden once used. Edie took the 2 knives from Tianyu Shi and suddenly felt a little emotional. Kazuki Oden is dead. He locked up his wife and daughter in his research institute and sent his son to the transvestite island. Now, even his weapons have been taken away by him. After this calculation, I really deserve to be an evil scientist, having done all kinds of bad things. No, at least no one died. Brother Oden, after receiving your sword today, you can rest in peace in hell. I will take good care of your wife and children and will not let them die. Thank you, ma'am. Edie took the knife and left. Click. The door was closed, but this time, it was unlocked. Tianyu stood there, thinking. The fact that it was not locked meant that she could leave the room at any time. Although this room is very spacious, no one likes to stay in this kind of place all the time. Mr. Edie is definitely not careless, he may be doing it deliberately. If he dies in the conflict with Kaido, it will be easier for the mother and son to escape. Mr. Edie is such a gentle man. Tianyu Shi thought speculatively in his heart. Although she is often asked to assist in some weird scientific experiments. Mother. Kazuki Hiyori raised his head and looked at his mother without blinking. Hiyori, let me continue teaching you shamisen. Tianyu Shi smiled slightly, sat down on his knees, and gently played with the strings with his white fingers. The other side, Edie went downstairs to the living room. Qianlong, Zishu, Shinho, and Gaisa are already waiting in the living room. What's the matter? Gai sat on the sofa shaking his legs and said anxiously, my experiment is at a critical moment. I have to observe the growth of the fruit trees all the time. What's the matter with calling me here? I have a female ninja in my hand who can ripen plants. Although it may not be successful, I will let her assist you in your research later. Edie said calmly, maybe it can make the fruit trees grow quickly and produce artificial devil fruit as soon as possible. Really, why didn't you tell me earlier? Gaisa immediately changed his face and said with a sneer, Dr. Edie, if you have anything to do, please feel free to tell me. Come to Kaido's banquet with me. Edie said casually and handed Oden's 2 knives to Shinho. Shinho, these 2 knives are for your use. Yes. Shenhu took Tianyu Yuzan and Yanmo and immediately felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. He is a pure swordsman. He has no weapons before and cannot display his strength to the best of his ability. Now that you get the right knife, you immediately have extremely powerful combat power. Use it well. There are not many sharp knives like this in the world. Edie walked aside and leisurely made everyone a cup of coffee. Come over and have a cup of coffee before going to the dinner party. After drinking coffee in a peaceful atmosphere, the time came to 7:30 p.m. Depending on the situation, what we're going to do tonight will be different. Whether the beast's pirates are allies or enemies depends on Kaido himself. Edie sat on the soft sofa and smiled softly. It's time, let's go. What kind of allies and what kind of enemies are you not going to attend Kaido's banquet? Guy didn't understand the situation for a while. You don't have to go if you're afraid. Edie teased with a faint smile. You know about Qianlong. Did the cloning thing happen? Gaisa was startled and asked, what if a fight breaks out? What will happen to my research? You can sell it to someone else, but you still have to worry about not having a buyer. Are you really going to kill Kaido? Guy was surprised. He didn't doubt whether Edie could do it. Qianlong was a perfect clone of Kaido, with both stats and fruit abilities. And such a clone is only one of the 12 earthly branches. There are 11 more existences like this. Just thinking about it is enough to make one shudder. Shinho, Zishu, Qianlong, just bring 3 subordinates. How about calling a few more earthly branches? You must send someone to protect me. Shinho, come and protect me. Gaisa hurriedly wanted to hug him thigh. You think too highly of Kaido. 3 people are more than enough. If you don't want to go, you can go back to your laboratory and hide. Edie laughed and stood up immediately. Hee hee, go, of course I will go, Dr. Edie, I will always be on your side. Guy smiled coquettishly and expressed his loyalty. Zishu, Qianlong and Shinho also stood up together. Zishu looked very excited. Did you have a fight? Good, good, I can move my muscles again. Edie ignored his nonsense and walked out of the living room, just in time to meet the 3 snake sisters. Master Edie, Hancock, stay at the institute tonight and don't go anywhere. Yes, the 3 sisters didn't know what happened, so they nodded obediently. Edie rubbed Hancock's head and walked out of the institute with a chuckle. After Kaido personally became the general, he gradually moved the headquarters of the Beast's pirates from Onigashima to the Flower Capital. Today's general city is occupied by a large number of pirates. Edie goes to the banquet, and the soldiers responsible for guarding the city gate have become members of the pirate group. Under the leadership of the other party, they quickly arrived at the banquet site. In the backyard of the general's mansion, the huge open-air banquet was overcrowded. Dancing girls and geishas were performing on the stage, pirates were feasting and drinking below, and Meiji in cool clothes was constantly serving delicious food and wine. Edie, you're here. Quinn saw Edie arriving and immediately came to greet her. Good evening. Edie smiled and said hello. Guy gave a weird laugh. Hey, it's been a long time, Quinn. Guy. Quinn's mouth twitched. Is your research okay? If you don't produce corresponding results in half a year, I won't be able to explain it to Master Kaido. Hey, don't worry, everything is going well. After exchanging pleasantries, Quinn noticed the 3 people behind Edie. Oh, are you the Lunaria clan that Jin mentioned, Qianlong? I didn't expect that besides that guy Jin, there are also Lunaria clan alive. Shinho was silent. I am Shinho. Quinn was stunned, her stiff eyes falling on the other person. Ha ha ha, I'm Zishu. You seem to be worried. Do you want to go outside with me to warm up? Zishu enthusiastically invited him to a duel. Quinn, no, something is wrong. Although these 2 people were wearing masks, part of their exposed hair was indeed white, and the skin on their palms was indeed similar to Jin's. He looked at the last person silently. Qianlong said coldly, I am Qianlong. Quinn met Qianlong's golden star eyes and felt a strong oppressive force from them. So strong. He was secretly shocked. No wonder he could beat Jin into losing his temper. Wait a minute, you 3 are all Lunaria. Quinn opened his mouth in surprise. Edie smiled. They are my subordinates, members of the 12 earthly branches. They are indeed considered the Lunaria clan. In other words, there are 9 more people. Quinn secretly guessed that there might be a group of Lunaria people who were not wiped out by the world government but were hidden. After careful recall, Edie has always been a mysterious person. Although the 2 parties have been working together for a long time, their understanding of Edie is only superficial. Ahem, anyway, let's sit down first. After coming back to his senses, Quinn took Edie and others to a table in the center. As soon as they sat down, a maid served them various delicacies. Anko soup, my favorite. You're welcome, just eat whatever you want. Quinn picked up a large bucket and started enjoying it. Edie's liver ached when he saw it. That is, the people in this world are physically strong enough, but if it were the people on Earth who ate like this. Shaking his head, Edie glanced around casually, not seeing Kaido or Jin. He is still not sure about Kaido's attitude. If he chooses to fall out, he will have no choice but to kill Kaido here. Today's beasts pirates, 2 or 3 big cats. There are only 2 disasters out of the 3, drought. Jack is still a 9-year-old baby and has not yet joined the beast group. There are 6 cadres in the sky, not even 1. They are all trash fish, trash fish. There are only 3 people who can really fight. Kaido, Jin, Quinn. It can be said that it is not difficult for Edie to destroy the beast's pirates tonight if he wants to. While thinking, Edie was suddenly startled, lowered his head slightly, and saw a small white hand stretched out from under the table. This was a child's hand. 5 fingers were groping around the edge of the table, and they quickly touched an apple. With a whoosh, he grabbed the apple with his little hand and tried to steal it quietly. It's not good to steal. Edie couldn't help laughing, and grabbed the other person's wrist with quick eyes and hands. It hurts. There was a cry of pain from under the table. Edie lifted the tablecloth and saw a cute little girl. The little girl opened her big eyes and looked at Edie silently. She has amber white hair, a pair of red devil horns on her head, and wears Wano-kuni's white kimono and a long red skirt. When they looked at each other, the little girl was chewing a crab in her mouth, and the crab's pincers were exposed from the corners of her mouth. Realizing that she had been exposed, she ate faster in her mouth, as if she had pressed playback speed. There is food everywhere here, what are you doing hiding down there and eating? Edie laughed, grabbed this cute little girl, and held her in her arms. He knows the other person. Kaido's daughter, Yamato. Calculating his age, he should be 9 years old now. Let me go. My father found out and he's going to beat me again. Yamato hurriedly tried to break away, twisting and turning in Edie's arms. Puff. Quinn, who was drinking Anko soup, suddenly vomited all over Guy's face and said in shock, "Your Highness." "Princess." Guy wiped it with a grimace on his face. If he couldn't beat Quinn, he really wanted to punch him. "Spit on his face, you." "Oh, Princess, are you Kaido's daughter?" Edie pretended to be surprised, stretched out his hand and pulled Yamato's face, hiding under the table to eat secretly. "Your dad usually doesn't allow you to eat." "It hurts, it hurts." Yamato swallowed the crab in his mouth with its shell, and then he started to cry out in pain. "My father has always asked me to practice. If I don't complete my daily practice, I will not be allowed to eat." As he spoke, he reached for the table. Unfortunately, her hands were too short and she couldn't touch the food in Edie's arms. Started to twist anxiously. Let me go, Edie." "Huh, you know me." Edie was surprised. He reached out and grabbed a chicken leg, holding it just out of Yamato's reach. "I have seen you. The last time I was executed, I was hiding in the shrine opposite." Yamato straightened his back, bounced his butt, raised his hands high, and tried to grab the drumstick above his head. Because of the problem of exerting strength, she also talked intermittently, focusing entirely on her food. "Ha ha ha, I see, you were also present when Kazuki Oden was executed." Edie laughed and gave the drumstick to Yamato. "Hey, how did Kaido, such a rough guy, give birth to such a cute daughter?" "That's not right, I was just cute when I was little. Growing up, I kept saying, I am Kazuki Oden. Aha." Yamato ate the chicken drumsticks with satisfaction and said something vaguely. "Let's talk after we finish eating." "Gudong, I want more. I haven't eaten for 3 days. If there hadn't been a banquet today, I might have starved to death." Even after swallowing the bones, Yamato was still not satisfied. Edie really envied this little girl's appetite. "Did you pick up a copy of Kazuki Oden's sailing diary, and then you clamored to become Oden every day, so your father treated you like this?" "Navigation diary." Yamato was stunned. "What is that?" A trace of doubt flashed in Edie's heart. Didn't he pick it up? Could it be the butterfly effect? What has his presence changed? While thinking, he picked up a whole piece of bone and meat from the table and put it into Yamato's mouth. Yamato was the diary he picked up in Curry. It was the voyage diary of Kazuki Oden, recording his adventures after going to sea, following the Whitebeard pirates, and then joining the Roger pirates. Edie tries to deduce cause and effect. In the original work, Yamato saw the execution of Kazuki Oden, endured the Kamabe torture for 1 hour, and died to save 9 retainers. As a result, Yamato worshipped Kazuki Oden. But now because of his appearance, Kazuki Oden did not endure the 1-hour capital punishment at all. The 9 retainers also chose to let go because of Kaido's impulsive act. Therefore, Yamato has no heaven-defying aspirations for Kazuki Oden. Naturally, she did not go to Oden Castle in Julie and pick up the so-called voyage diary. It's just a small change that has a big impact. Edie thought to himself. On the day of Kazuki Oden's execution, all the spotlight was on him. This little girl, Yamato, wouldn't it be him who she admires now? Do you admire me? Edie asked with a smile. Huh, why do I have to worship you, Edie? Yamato asked while eating. You should worship me. Edie used armament hockey and pinched Yamato's cheek hard. I want to call you Uncle Edie. It hurts, it hurts. Yamato cried in pain. Suddenly, her little body trembled violently, her big eyes looked not far away, and her little porcelain doll-like face turned pale. Father Kaido and Jin are coming this way. Let me down, I'm going to hide. If my father sees me, he's going to beat me again. Yamato was extremely nervous. It doesn't matter, your Uncle Edie is here. Not only did Edie not put the person down, but he also had a great time playing with it. If the little girl doesn't play now, she might not have a chance to play in the future. After all, I might have a falling out with Kaido today. Yamato. Kaido stepped like a meteor, and suddenly saw Yamato in Edie's arms. His face suddenly darkened. What are you doing? Yamato was so frightened that he kept shrinking into Edie's arms. Meeting his father, Yamato is like a mouse meeting a cat. Just a scolding made his face turn pale with fright, and he tried his best to hide in Edie's arms. Father, she whispered timidly. Mr. Kaido, if you scare your daughter all day long, she will only resist you when she grows up. Edie rubbed Yamato's head. Kaido walked towards Yamato with a sullen face. At the originally lively pirate banquet, everyone fell silent and stood up one after another because of his appearance. Jin said in a deep voice, Edie, this is Master Kaido's family matter, you should not interfere without permission. Hearing this, Quinn quickly walked to Kaido and whispered something. After hearing this, Kaido couldn't help but narrowed his eyes and shifted his gaze from Yamato to Qianlong. After a while, little ones, today is a happy day. After this period of cleanup, Wano Kuni's samurai rebellion has been completely suppressed by us. From now on, this country belongs to us beasts pirates. This is all thanks to our ally Edie. It was the guns and improved bullets he developed that gave us powerful firepower. Let's have fun tonight. Kaido grinned, looked at the audience, and raised his arms. Oh, long live Kaido-sama. Long live Lord Edie. Kaido-sama, we will follow you for the rest of our lives. The pirates shouted loudly and vigorously. After rekindling the atmosphere of the banquet, Kaido walked straight to Edie's table without saying anything. Seeing this, Qianlong stood up. Wait. Edie stopped Qianlong's unauthorized actions and said with a faint smile, Mr. Kaido, congratulations to you for finally taking control of Wano Kuni. Edie, here are today's newspapers, and the 3 bounty orders issued by Marine. Kaido ignored his daughter Yamato and got straight to the point and took out a newspaper and 3 reward notices. Edie glanced at it and smiled. I've already seen it. Oh, hee, that's quite courageous. Kaido grinned. The evil scientist Edie, and his subordinate Qianlong, have the power of the phantom beast Qianlong just like me. Really? Edie nodded and talked about Yamato instead. Mr. Kaido, I have to remind you that your way of educating your children is a bit too extreme. Look, how scared you are of this little girl. Really, she is my Kaido's daughter. From now on, I want to train her to be Wano Kuni's general. How can I rule this country without super strength? Kaido glanced at his daughter Yamato and said in a different tone, since you said so, I'll give you face. But, face, do I also have the fruit of face? Edie laughed and shook his head. Sure enough, the world of pirates is not about fighting and killing. Look, Kaido is also very talkative. Just listen to Kaido say in a cold tone. But, answer me a question. Did you artificially create a blue dragon fruit? In the past 2 years, you have hidden it from me and created a zone, fish fruit, phantom beast species, and devil fruit in the form of a blue dragon. Did you come to Wano Kuni for me? To copy a fantasy beast fruit from me? Hearing this, Edie's posture was full of leisure, and he even had the time to pick up a grilled fish from the table and feed it to Yamato. Yamato blinked blankly, but there was food on his lips and he would be a fool not to eat it. I don't know when the next time I want to be full will be. She opened her mouth and bit down on Edie's feed. Edie, no, Uncle Edie is a good man. That's not a problem, Mr. Kaido. Stop talking nonsense and answer my question. Kaido's aura gradually increased, and Conqueror's haki wrapped around him, hiding and hiding. At this moment, the climate above the flower city changed drastically, and thick dark clouds blocked the moonlight. The wind howls and the clouds change. Dark clouds enveloped the land, and even the pirates who were eating and drinking now noticed that something was wrong with the atmosphere, and they all froze in place. In the bustling flower city, pedestrians on the street raised their heads. Is it going to rain? Someone wondered. At the same time, the banquet scene. A wave of conquerors also burst out from Qianlong's body, cold and emotionless, like a machine's golden star eyes, staring coldly at his own prototype. He. Edie couldn't help laughing and said in a calm tone, Mr. Kaido, when did you have the illusion that the blue dragon fruit you ate is the original one? What do you mean? Kaido's frown deepened. There are no two identical devil fruits in the world. If there are, then one of them is artificial. Edie put Yamato down in his arms, smiled and rubbed the little girl's head. At the same time, he put his right thumb on the ring of his index finger and turned it slightly. No one noticed this little move. You arbitrarily believe that what you are eating is the real devil fruit, and the azure dragon ability that Qianlong possesses comes from the replica, from the artificial azure dragon fruit. You're so ignorant, Kaido. As soon as he finished speaking, Edie's body changed. Boom! Like a thunderbolt falling on a clear day, Edie transformed into a blue dragon and suddenly rose into the sky. Roar! With a dragon roar, the wind pressure alone seemed to have set off a typhoon. The atmosphere shook and hurricanes swept through. The banquet was in chaos, and countless tables and chairs were blown into the sky. The pirates looked at this scene in horror, as if their worldview had collapsed. Kaido-sama. No, that's not Kaido. What happened? The pirates of Beast's pirates looked at the sky blankly, and the unknown fear enveloped everyone's hearts. What happened? Kaido was also stunned. Jin, Quinn, and even Yamato. The news is that Qianlong has the ability of the azure dragon fruit, so what is going on in this scene in front of him? Edie. Who the hell are you? Kaido roared and transformed into a blue dragon as well. His neck grew longer, his mouth protruded outwards, his teeth became sharper, and dragon scales appeared on his skin. Roar! Another blue dragon was born over the flower capital. I'm just a scientist. Oh, giggling, you really succeeded. Azure Dragon Edie and Azure Dragon Kaido face off in the sky. A scene beyond imagination is taking place, and countless people are shocked to the point of losing their minds. 2 dragons. Edie, I saw you right. Qianlong Kaido laughed, and the laughter tore through the atmosphere. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what your purpose is. The research funds given to you in the past 2 years have indeed not been wasted. My zone ability user army cannot live without your technology. Come on, Edie, let me test how far your skills go. When he opened his mouth, there was a hot breath. The scorching flame turned into dragon's breath and suddenly hit the blue dragon Edie. At this moment, a black shadow flew past. Qianlong spread the wings behind him and intercepted the dragon's breath suddenly. This guy. Jin was suddenly shocked. Boom. The hot breath hit Qianlong, and the flame swallowed up everything. Roar. Suddenly, a dragon's roar resounded across the sky, and what emerged from the flames was the third green dragon. My Lord Heavenly Father, there is no need for you to take action yourself. Qianlong flicked his dragon tail, directly dissipating the heat, and his huge golden star eyes burst out with awe-inspiring killing intent. Kaido's dragon eye suddenly shrank. It turns out that what was said in the news was true. Only, hot breath, hot breath. The exact same attack was inspired from the mouths of Qianlong and Kaido, and the next moment, there was a loud bang. The firelight reflected the sky of Wado like daylight, reflecting the 3 behemoths in the night. Countless people looked up, unspeakably frightened. Three-headed dragons. 3 dragons. Hey, there are 3 green dragons in the sky. 3 Kaido. Am I dazzled? What's going on? What's going to happen to this country? The people of the Flower City felt palpitated. The fire caused by the collision of dragon breaths reflected the 3 dragons in the night sky in an astonishing manner. One of them hovered in the sky, but no movement was seen. The other 2 green dragons were in a fierce stalemate, spraying dragon breath from their mouths. Wano-kuni, there was a legend of dragon slaying hundreds of years ago. Dragon slaying samurai, Shimotsuki Ryoma was defeated in his life. Not only did he stop countless invading pirates and world nobles, but he actually killed a dragon in the sky above the Flower City and was regarded as the sword god Ryoma. But that was hundreds of years ago, when Wano-kuni was still known as the Golden Country. Tonight, the 3 dragons gathered in the sky above Wado. Even if the sword god is resurrected, I am afraid that there is nothing he can do and he will drink hatred on the spot. Run, run. I don't know who was the first to shout. After a brief moment of sluggishness, the people of Wado ran frantically towards the outside of the city. The banquet scene was in a mess. Quinn was completely dumbfounded and his mind was a little dazed. He raised his hand to his forehead with a constipated expression on his face. In other words, this guy has completed research in the past 2 years. He has even created 2 artificial azure dragon fruits, one for his subordinates and one for himself. Quinn felt suddenly sad. We are both scientists, why are you so arrogant? Although his research direction is different, he also understands the difficulty of artificial devil fruit, and it is also a fantasy beast species. No, what he just said is a bit concerning. Jin looked up at the 3 blue dragons in the sky. Except for some details, they were almost identical. Mr. Kaido, when did you have the illusion that the blue dragon fruit you ate was the original one? Does this sentence mean that the fruit Kaido-sama eats is a replica? Jin once heard Kaido mention it. 19 years ago, Beast's pirates had not yet been established, and Lord Kaido was still a crew member of Rock's pirate. That year, the Valley of the Gods incident occurred. Lord Kaido's companion at the time and now one of the 3 emperors, Big Mom Charlotte Linlin, grabbed the blue dragon fruit and gave it to Kaido. If the blue dragon fruit that Kaido-sama ate is a replica, then who copied it? Jin frowned. The green dragon fruit was snatched from the celestial dragons. Could it be that the world government has mastered the artificial devil fruit technology very early? Ha 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 ha, you look confused. Otherwise, if you can beat me, I will answer your question for free. At this time, Zishu suddenly burst into laughter, whipped out the sword on his waist, moved forward, and slashed Jin with his sword. Jin suddenly came back to his senses, and in a hurry, he immediately drew his knife to resist. However, the opponent's attack was so powerful that the ground beneath his feet sank, and cracks spread in an instant. What a heavy blow. Jin's expression changed slightly. That guy Chen Long took away the best prey. Hey, I can only play with you for a while. Don't worry, I won't kill you unless ordered by Lord Heavenly Father. Zishu sighed regretfully. Prey, you said Lord Kaido is prey. Jin snorted coldly, and a mysterious flame was born behind his back. The Lunaria clan's talent was activated, and at this moment, his defense power was doubled. Oh, I can do this too. Zishu grinned and spread the wings behind his back. The next moment, the same flame was born. The mysterious flame quickly wrapped around the blade, and his golden star eyes were breathtaking and extremely sharp. As soon as his eyes were focused, the fire on the knife was like a cannonball, and as his wrist exerted force, it suddenly blasted out. Vagabond. Jin's pupils dilated, and his vision was filled with flames. Boom. With one swing, Zishu's flame slash destroyed everything in front of him, and even penetrated the general's mansion with one blow, and the fire spread to the outside of the city wall. In the fierce flames, a black shadow rose into the sky, and Jin flapped his wings to quickly climb up. It is indeed the Lunaria clan. Jin looked down, and bloodline appeared on his forehead. Even with his defense doubled, he was still breached. Your name is Zishu. Why do you and the other 2 have golden stars in their eyes? He couldn't help but ask, trying his best to collect information. We are both from the Lunaria clan, what's special about you? Ha 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 ha, yes, why? Zishu laughed, his wings vibrated behind his back, and he immediately jumped into the air, is there a possibility that you are not a pure-blooded Lunaria? With the mentality of teasing fools, Zishu launched the second round of attack in a joking manner. Inspired by Heavenly Father. Heavenly Father is fooling Kaido, what you are eating is fake and a replica. He also followed suit. In the sky, Jin faced Zishu's attack and quickly blocked it with his sword. But the doubts in my heart were even greater. Am I not a pure-blood Lunaria? Are there any distinctions between pure blood and mixed blood among the Lunaria clan? Pure blood eyes are golden stars. What happened? He became more and more confused. It seems like there is a shocking secret hidden in the darkness. In the same chaotic banquet. It's so scary, so scary. Why did the fight suddenly start? Yamato crawled on the ground, climbed behind an overturned dining table, and hid, shivering alone. She was just hungry and secretly came to the banquet to find food. First, she was caught by Uncle Edie, and then Uncle Edie exchanged some words with her father that she did not understand. Then, the battle broke out inexplicably. Moreover, there are many dragons, including the blue dragon like my father. The little girl's head was dizzy and she didn't know what to do. Bululu. His stomach growled, so Yamato touched his stomach and saw a whole roast chicken on the ground. He drooled with greed on the spot. The little girl looked around and found that no one was paying attention to her. She immediately picked it up and ate it secretly. No one pays attention to Yamato, even though she is the daughter of Kaido and in a sense a noble princess. Not far away, Quinn discovered that Zishu and Jin were fighting. He then looked at the three dragons in the sky. Shenlong and Kaido were fighting. Do I have to join the war too? As soon as Quinn had this idea, Shenhu, who had been silent all this time, suddenly moved. A lightning-fast sword was thrust towards Quinn, the tip of the sword barely stopping 1 centimeter in front of his neck. Don't move, Shenhu said in an indifferent tone. Quinn felt like a thorn, and immediately raised his hands. Wait, this is a misunderstanding. We are allies, I have no intention of fighting. Shenhu said calmly. Then stand here and don't move. Heavenly Father has specifically told you that I will not kill you. Kaido, killable. Jin, cannot be killed. Quinn, also cannot be killed. The former is from the Lunaria clan, and blood is very useful. Although Edie has obtained Jin's blood factor, blood is a consumable when cloning, and he may need to replenish it one day. As for the latter, Quinn is a scientist. If he can avoid killing, Edie will try not to kill the scientist and can take him under his command to assist in research. So, it's a misunderstanding. Quinn said angrily. Although there was an accident tonight, we have no intention of breaking the covenant. And after all, it was Edie who borrowed the chicken to lay the egg first and secretly copied the blue dragon fruit. It doesn't matter if you copy it, the key is not to tell them. Shouldn't good things be shared with each other? This is all the money we invested. Shinho remained silent, just threatening Quinn with his sword. Hey. At this time, Guy from the side floated over. He was like a ball of gas, and he said in a bullish manner, you said a misunderstanding is a misunderstanding. That wasn't the case when we launched an attack just now, right? After a pause, he licked his lips again. The situation has changed now. Quinn, whether or not to kill you all depends on Dr. Edie's thoughts. Oh, by the way, if you want to ask me, I can help you with some advice. If you want to say something nice, just give me 10 billion research funds. Quinn's face turned dark as he realized. These fools are simply taking the opportunity to cause trouble, and their purpose is to get money. 10 billion, I'm afraid it won't be enough to fill this group of people. As a scientist, he is very aware of how expensive research is, and no one would complain that research funds are too high. Edie, you guy, have you forgotten the time we drank Anko soup together? Quinn shouted to the sky, playing the emotional card. In the sky, Edie hovered over Wado. After hearing Quinn's call, he glanced at it and ignored it. He stood on the sidelines and watched the confrontation between Shenlong and Kaido. This time, it was just time to test the limit of Shenlong's power. Boom! The two dragon breaths that had been in a stalemate for a long time were accompanied by a loud noise, and both sides stopped outputting power. Oh, perfect power. Shenlong Kaido laughed, marveling at Shenlong. Even if it is the same phantom beast fruit, the power displayed by it is very different depending on the degree of development. But Qianlong's heat breath was almost as good as his, and Kaido was moved by this perfect power. Qianlong, don't hold back. Edi gave the order calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, Qianlong immediately unleashed his strongest move. Terrifying flames rose from Qianlong's body, turning into a flame dragon that wrapped around the dragon's body. The blue dragon turned into a red fire dragon. The high temperature has even distorted the atmosphere. The moisture in the air is evaporating rapidly, and the many wells in the flower city are drying up at a speed visible to the naked eye. Immediately afterwards, Qianlong's body twisted, and the dragon's head came out quickly. Fire Dragon Torch. Qianlong Kaido was shocked. My move. Fire Dragon Torch. The body of the coiled dragon is covered with a fire dragon, the dragon opens its bloody mouth, and the dragon head rushes out. Kaido was stunned to see that his own moves were copied perfectly. Don't look down on people. Kaido was furious and his whole body also burned with flames. Before he could finish charging up, Qianlong bit Kaido's body. In pain, Kaido looked up to the sky and roared. Both are blue dragons, and neither of them is afraid of the power of fire. Even so, Kaido's dragon scales were still broken by this bite. It hurts. To fight tooth for tooth, Kaido also bit Qianlong. The sharp dragon's teeth shattered the green dragon's scales, and blood seeped out. In the sky, two fire dragons quickly fought together. On par, Edi watched the battle silently and thought for a moment. The dragon's body moved and quickly descended to the top of the general city. He shrunk in size and returned to his human form in the blink of an eye. Putting his hands in the pockets of his white coat, he continued to observe the fight between the clone and the original body. The two fire dragons bit each other, fought, and quickly separated. This is the most violent action, a competition of strength between giants. Qianlong swung his tail and slapped Kaido's head hard from top to bottom. Kaido showed no sign of weakness and responded with the same dragon tail. Boom! The two men's attacks have already begun to entangle conquerors, and the conflict between conquerors has already broken out without their bodies touching. These two huge waves of conquerors swept through the entire flower city, and the aftermath alone overturned countless houses. The streets seemed to have been plowed, and the roads paved with bluestone bricks were shattered and rolled up. At the real center of the collision, the shock wave shot straight into the sky. The clouds in the sky opened a deep ravine, and dark clouds poured in. The power to tear apart the sky. The pirates of Beast's pirates were frightened and trembling under the conflict of conquerors. Actually, we are actually fighting on an equal footing with Kaido-sama. It's over. The flower city is over. They are two monsters. The air is so hot. Breathe. Many people have begun to feel uncomfortable. Two fire dragons are fighting above their heads, and the air is heated to an unbearable level. Oh, Giggle, your murderous intention has turned into reality. Do you really want to kill me? During the battle, Kaido opened his mouth and laughed, but you can't kill me. You are very strong, your ability scores are good, hockey is good, everything is perfect. But it still can't kill me. Our fighting abilities are almost the same. The two's dragon tail slaps were in a stalemate for a moment, and Conqueror's hockey was rapidly consuming. Qianlong was not interested in talking nonsense to Kaido. The dragon's head moved forward and bit Kaido's neck again regardless of whether he was injured. I saw a fire dragon biting another fire dragon in the sky, and shot it down desperately. The two dragons fell towards the outskirts of the flower capital, with a loud bang, creating deep holes in the ground. Because both sides carry high temperatures, the ground begins to become sticky and turns into magma as soon as it touches the ground. Kaido-sama. Jin was slightly startled when he saw this scene from the corner of his eye. Don't be distracted, half-blood. A deliberate reminder sounded, and Jin quickly raised his hand and swung his sword to attack. At the moment when the two blades collided, endless mysterious fire came from Zishu's slash. Each of the opponent's swords carried this kind of power, and Jin was knocked down from the sky by this sword. Are the pure-blooded Lunaria so strong? Jin couldn't understand why everyone, even though they were from the Lunaria clan, had such a huge gap in their ability to manipulate the mysterious flames. It can only be attributed to the purity of blood. He got up from the ground, and as soon as his eyes blurred, the mouse was already flying in front of him. You seem to have misunderstood something, half-blood. Zishu held the knife in his right hand, lightly tapped his shoulder with the back of the knife, and said in a relaxed tone, "You and I are not the difference between pure blood and mixed blood. As a mixed blood, you are already very strong." The further he went on, the happier Zishu's tone became. "Did you see that idiot named Qianlong over there? To be honest, if I got serious, I could hack him to death." Hearing this, Jin's pupils shrank. How can this be? Among the 12 earthly branches, Qianlong, he thought that Qianlong was the strongest, but now the rat in front of him told him that he could kill Qianlong. How could he believe this? Being able to kill Qianlong doesn't mean that you can also kill Master Kaido. Are your 12 earthly branches all pure-blooded Lunalia? Do you all have the fighting power of Qianlong? After a moment of silence, Jin asked again. Although the matter was very outrageous, he already believed it 70% to 80%. Words can deceive, but combat effectiveness cannot, nor can the reality seen with one's own eyes. These pure-blooded Lunarias all have golden star eyes, and they look stronger than the last. That's not true. Shenhu seems to be quite weak. I have never fought with him, Zishu said with a playful smile. Monkey. Jin quickly glanced at another earthly branch in the distance. Shinho threatened Quinn with a sword, so that Quinn did not dare to act rashly. Is this guy considered weak? You are so strong, why do you take orders from Edie? Boom. As soon as Jin finished speaking, Zishu burst into a burst of conquerors. Cold sweat dripped down Jin's face under the mask. What a terrifying conquerors, even above Master Kaido. However, this wave of conquerors went as quickly as it came, and then I heard Z-Mouse ask in a cold voice. Then let me ask you, why do you take orders from Kaido? Kaido-sama is kind to me. It's okay to lie to others, but don't lie to yourself. Zishu's shoulders shook as if he was amused. The weak obey the strong. This is a natural law engraved deep in the human soul. You take orders from Kaido because Kaido is kind to you. It's a joke. This is only part of the reason. The biggest reason is of course because Kaido is better than you. So, is Edie more powerful than the so-called 12 earthly branches? Jin seemed to understand. He clenched the huge katana in his hand and took a deep breath. It seems we all have something we can't give in to. Zishu, if you want to kill Lord Kaido, just step on my body. As he spoke, he spread his wings and took the initiative to attack Zishu. Zishu curled his lips and said, I told you, I won't kill you, Heavenly Father won't allow it. The two fought again. The roof of General City. Edie stood facing the wind, not paying attention to the battle between Jin and Zishu, but quietly watching Qianlong and Kaido. The battle between the two went from the sky to the underground, from Wado to the suburbs. From dragon form to human form, and from human form to human animal form. Finally, from night to early morning. When the first ray of sunlight rose in the Flower City, the two fighting men fell to the ground, breathing heavily. Still no winner. Seeing this, Edie turned the power ring again and transformed into a green dragon. In a blink of an eye, he came to the outskirts and looked down at the two people lying on the ground from a height. I'm sorry, Heavenly Father. Qianlong gasped quickly and his mask was even torn. When he saw Edie arriving, he immediately knelt down on one knee and apologized in shame. On the other side, Kaido also stood up and gasped, You can continue. Edie's huge dragon eyes glanced at Kaido, and then fell on Qianlong. These two people are still physically capable of fighting. Maybe they can fight for a few days and finally decide the winner. Considering that Qianlong has the blood factor of the Lunalia clan, he has a greater chance of winning in the end. Edie, you've been watching from the side, why don't you come and play with me? Suddenly, Kaido opened his mouth, and a burning breath suddenly attacked the blue dragon in the sky. Ah! Edie's dragon claw reached out and directly blocked Kaido's breath in human form. Then he clenched his claw and extinguished the attack with a pop. Kaido, do you want to light birthday candles for me? Edie couldn't help but mock. He is now in the form of a green dragon, and this little flame is enough to tickle him. Quote. Kaido's eyes darkened. At this moment, a black shadow quickly approached. The sword flashed. Puff! A blood mark appeared on Kaido's chest, and hot blood spurted out. What? Kaido's expression changed. So fast. The next moment, the tip of a samurai sword was pointed at his nose. Zishu said lazily, Father, Qianlong is not good at all. It's better to let me hack him to death. Hey, Kaido, Quickly recover your strength, I'll wait for you. This guy is Zishu. Kaido thought of what Quinn told him last night. At this time, he suddenly recalled that there were 12 people from the 12 earthly branches. He couldn't even defeat a Qianlong in a short time, and even until the end of the fight, the outcome was uncertain. Not to mention 11 more. Zishu, don't meddle in other people's business. Qianlong gritted his teeth and said, I will kill him. Didn't you kill him? I saw you fighting all night. Give me a little more time, I can definitely kill him. No, it's my turn now. That half-blood Jin can't help but beat him. The two had a dispute over Kaido's ownership. Kaido touched the wound on his chest, and blood continued to flow down his chest. His face was livid, and he felt like he was being hunted. The two hunters were discussing who would be responsible for the kill. Humiliation. A sense of humiliation that I haven't experienced in a long, long time. This reminded him of the past, when he was treated as a little brother and a weak, on rocks pirate ship. Hee. At this time, there was a chuckle, and Edie finally said, little guy, I don't really want to kill you. After all, our cooperation has been very pleasant in the past 2.5 years. Little guy, didn't you call me Mr. Kaido before? Kaido twitched the corner of his mouth fiercely. What exactly do you want to say? Edie. Killing you will do me no good. Azure Dragon Edie sighed. It would be great if he could kill Kaido and get hundreds of billions of Baileys like the defeated boss in the game. Let's do this. 200 billion. Edie, the green dragon, raised 2 paws and said, you can't come up with so much money in one breath. From now on, you will sponsor 20 billion research funds for my institute in the name of Beasts Pirates every year for 10 years. Hearing this, Kaido narrowed his eyes and glanced at Qianlong, then Zishu, and finally raised his head to look at the dragon in the sky. In the past, he was the only one who looked up to the sky like this, but today he has reversed his attitude. You win, I promise you. The rules among pirates are so simple, although Edie is not a pirate. When a conflict breaks out between 2 pirate groups, it is common sense for the winning side to take away all the supplies and money from the losing side. Even killing all the losers or annexing the losers is a common practice. But Edie's appetite was too big, and he asked for 200 billion belly. Kaido couldn't afford such a huge amount of money, and besides, he still had thousands of subordinates to support. Therefore, installment over 10 years and stabilizing 20 billion per year is a reasonable method proposed by Edie after considering the revenue of Beasts Pirates. Okay, I like cheerful men. Seeing that Kaido was very honest, Edie smiled with satisfaction and said, since you are so cheerful, little guy, we will still be partners from now on. The research on artificial devil fruit will be successful soon, and your participation will be indispensable. As for how much an artificial zone devil fruit will cost at that time, it depends on the cost. Kaido was speechless about this. What does it mean to succeed quickly? Could it be that the 3-headed blue dragon last night was fake? But now the status of both parties has been reversed, and he is not stubborn enough to argue with Edie on this issue. This year's 20 billion research funds must be raised as soon as possible. Little guy, don't let me down, let's go. Edie moved and was about to leave. He seemed to remember something in the middle and turned around and said, by the way, little guy, I really think your way of educating your children is a bit too extreme. After speaking, this time, Edie really flew away, and Qianlong disappeared in the suburbs of Wano in a blink of an eye. Seeing this, Qianlong immediately flapped the wings behind his back and quickly followed the footsteps of his heavenly father, without even looking at Kaido from the beginning to the end. He doesn't have any extra interest in Kaido, it's just that the mission failed. He is a little worried about his status in the eyes of the Heavenly Father. Why? Zishu sighed and said helplessly to Kaido, there's no need to fight again. Forget it, Kaido, save your money. I suggest you rob the world government's bank, which is only 20 billion. Your proposal is a bit too extreme. Robbing the world government's banks. Kaido feels that these earthly branches are more like pirates, each one is crazier than the other, they are completely crazy. The same goes for that Qianlong. When fighting him, he fought in a completely lifeless manner, as if he wanted to kill him even if he died. Kaido followed Zishu with his eyes and watched with a heavy heart as he opened his black wings and flew away. Lunaria clan. He felt that this Zishu might be stronger than Qianlong. This was his sense of the strong. Kaido-sama. At this time, Jin came from a distance, staggering, and even had no strength to fly, so he could only walk towards this place on foot. Are you okay, Jin? This world has become interesting. Kaido grinned, touched the wound on his chest, and opened his palms, which were all red. I can still become stronger. Stronger. Shaking off the bloodline from his hand, Kaido transformed into a blue dragon and flew towards Onigashima. A word floated from the sky. Jin, clean up the flower city. Tell Yamato to let her practice well. I won't force her anymore in the future. If you want to thank her Uncle Edie. He still had to give evil scientist Edie some face. It used to be for scientists, and now it's for Edie. Large areas of the flower city were damaged by the fighting, and hundreds of houses were destroyed in the aftermath. Even the general's mansion was severely damaged. Under Kaido's order, Quinn and Jin immediately began to organize manpower to repair the streets. Your expression is a bit heavy. Quinn couldn't help asking when he saw his companion Jin was distracted. I'm too weak. I couldn't help Kaido-sama. I was treated like a child when I fought with that pureblood. Jin was also seriously injured, but this was already the result of his opponent's mercy. Edie didn't allow Zishu to kill him, and Zishu did not cause any fatal injuries to him. This is probably because he is a mixed race and belongs to the Lunalia clan. Quinn patted Jin on the shoulder and comforted him. Think of the good news. 3 earthly branches just came last night. Yes, there are only 3 people. Jin was silent. Of the 3 people, only Qianlong and Kaido-sama were fighting desperately, while the other 2 were completely watching the show. If the 3 of them join forces, Kaido-sama will be in trouble. Quinn grinned again, with a good attitude. Besides, didn't Edie take any action? He really wanted to destroy us, beasts pirates, and we can still stand here. So, hey, last night was all a misunderstanding. Jin had nothing to say. Flower City, Research Institute. During last night's battle, Qianlong deliberately avoided this area, thanks to the fact that the Research Institute was far away from the general's mansion and located in a relatively remote location in Wano. Therefore, there was almost no major impact. When Edie returned to the institute, Hancock and the 3 of them had already prepared breakfast. Master Edie, we have prepared the meal. Very capable, Hancock. Edie smiled slightly and touched Hancock's head as a reward. Hancock was very helpful and puffed up his chest proudly. From now on, Master Edie's change of clothes, the cleaning of the institute, and the daily meals can all be left to us. Right, Mary, Sonia, we are warriors of 9 snakes, and we must learn to live by ourselves since we were young. Yes, the 2 sisters nodded quickly. It's amazing, but you can't let go of your usual practice. If you encounter human traffickers again in the future, you will rely on your own strength to deal with them. Edie laughed and immediately took the people upstairs for dinner. After a simple breakfast, Edie came to the laboratory and saw Qianlong kneeling in front of her. I'm sorry, Lord Heavenly Father, it was my gaffe that caused the mission to fail. Stand up, Qianlong, you have done your best, there is no need to apologize. Edie shook his head. Qianlong possesses Kaido's bloodline factor, the talent of the Lunaria clan, and the perfect blue dragon fruit ability. Logically speaking, Qianlong is stronger than Kaido. But after actually fighting him, you will know that the theory is just a theory. In fact, Qianlong and Kaido have about the same fighting power. Besides, the mission did not fail. You did a good job. I didn't really want to kill Kaido. Edie patted Qianlong on the shoulder and praised, as the firstborn among the 12 earthly branches, you are excellent. The most important thing is that you are not like Zishu, who is too naughty. After a pause, he sighed and said, Qianlong, you are my favorite earthly branch. Lord Heavenly Father. Qianlong was very moved and was not blamed. As expected, Heavenly Father is the greatest person. Next, our goal is to control the Beehive Island. Go ahead and urge Dufeld and ask him to transport the equipment I need as soon as possible. Yes, Qianlong immediately took the order and left. After sending Qianlong away, Edie walked into the laboratory. As the Pirate Emperor, Kaido's research funding of 20 billion a year is definitely not a problem. Even Kaido can do it, but Big Mom can't do it. What about Whitebeard? These pirate emperors charge protection fees in New World. I charge them protection fees. It's reasonable. No, it can't be called protection fees, but sponsorship fees. The pirate emperor is a good person, and they couldn't see that he was short of research funds, so he volunteered to sponsor a sum of money. Well, once we take control of Beehive Island, we'll have a good chat with the other two. Edie wrote down new phased goals in his future plan. New world, somewhere. World Economic News, President's Office. Morgans is talking to someone on the phone. Thank you for your information before. What happened at the Sabayati archipelago was originally suppressed by Marine. If it weren't for you, I really wouldn't have known that such a big incident had happened. A low laugh came from the other end of the phone. I'm just curious who Zishu is. If you know, just remember to tell me. Of course, this is the reward you deserve for providing information. Morgans narrowed her eyes and gradually lowered her tone. But, I am very curious. In the 5th year after the death of Pirate King Roger, you, the vice captain, disappeared for a while. Why did you reappear now? After a pause, he called out the other person's name. Pluton, Rayleigh. Chapter 31. More than a month later, Naval Headquarters. Marine Staff. Is there no information about the scientist and the 2 earthly branches yet? There is a death order from above. The person must be caught. Attacking celestial dragons is really troublesome. General Staff Officer, he asked Colonel Marine in front of him. His tone was quite troublesome. Colonel Theodore looked troubled. As a Marine intelligence officer, he has been busy investigating the Sabayati archipelago incident during this period, but found nothing. In the workplace, if you directly say that you have accomplished nothing, you will appear to be a waste. Reporting to the Chief of Staff, over the past month or so, I have inquired with various major institutions many times and confirmed once again that there is no file for a scientist named Edie. Whether it's the Marine Scientific Force, the major research institutions under the world government, or the major private research institutes, they have never heard of scientist Edie. Therefore, I wonder if the identity of the scientist is a smokescreen to deliberately mislead our investigation. It's not that I don't work hard, it's just that the enemy is too cunning, Chief of Staff. He clasped the fingers of his hands together, looking thoughtful. Did no one provide any clues about the bounty announced? About this, many people have provided clues, but after in-depth investigation, they were all scammers. Theodore sighed. Those people were like ghosts, they had disappeared since they appeared once more than a month ago. He suddenly remembered something and then mentioned. By the way, during this investigation, we found that a scientist was missing. Who? A researcher at the Punk Hazard Institute named Gaisakuran. He was formerly a member of the Mads Peace Institute and later joined world government with Vegapunk. He frowned. You mean, this person has something to do with Edie? I don't know. The time when Gaisa disappeared was July or August ago. The Institute only discovered it after our inquiry and internal investigation. Why? He looked stunned. A researcher disappeared and it took 7 or 8 months to find out. If Marine hadn't asked, would it have been impossible to find out? No, this kind of thing is unreasonable. Is it deliberately concealed? Because Guy's relationship with other researchers is not good. Theodore replied sarcastically. A researcher with a marginal status but not very popular, no one cares when he disappears. Theodore also found this statement outrageous, but the Punk Hazard Institute did say so. Continue to pay attention and investigate in depth. Crane Vice Admiral ordered helplessly, is there any other important information? Have. Theodore suddenly became energetic and said with a serious face, in the past month, Beast's Pirates has been moving very frequently, and it has reached an abnormal level. They attacked 23 merchant ships and defeated 4 New World pirate groups, one of which was under Whitebeard. Not only that, Kaido's men sank 3 of our warships. Hearing this, Vice Admiral He's expression changed slightly. Beast's pirates defeated Whitebeard's pirate group. This is not good news. There may be a conflict between the 3 emperors. But what's the reason? Such abnormal actions cannot be the result of Kaido being drunk and giving orders while drunk. Maybe lack of money. After hesitating for a moment, Theodore said bravely, after they sank the warship, they did not kill everyone. Just a few days ago, they offered to let us spend money to ransom the prisoners. Crane Vice Admiral supports the forehead, which is really a big departure. She joined the army when she was young and is now 57 years old. This is the first time she has seen such a thing in her 30 or 40-year military career. What did Marshal Kong say? Sengoku Admiral has been sent to deal with it. Wano-kuni. After more than a month of repairs, the streets of the Flower City have been completely renewed, and the efficiency is extremely high. The people who had fled before returned to the flower capital, and it became lively and prosperous again. Even for those houses that were destroyed, Beast's pirates also proposed ways to replace them with new ones. After learning this, Edie had to sigh. From pirates to a country's ruling class, everything has changed dramatically. Flower City, Research Institute. Hancock glared angrily at Yamato. This little white-haired guy has been coming here to eat and drink every day lately. HMPH, it's really annoying. Why are you here again? Yamato's mouth was full of food. Father no longer forces me to practice every day, so I can live freely. Aren't you the princess of Wano-kuni? Why don't you stay in General City? The food there is better. Hancock put his hands on his hips and was still wearing an apron. Princess, everyone calls me that, but I like the food you cook. It's delicious. Yamato's face was full of satisfaction. That's not for you, that's a sweet lunch for Lady Edie. Hancock was so angry that he chattered his teeth. Besides, what's so great about a princess? There is another princess in the Research Institute. Hiyori, you are much sweeter and sweeter than me. You are not welcome here at all. Why? Yamato blinked. Uncle Edie clearly allowed me to come and play. Ah, Uncle Edie, hateful, why can you stinky white-haired man, be so affectionate? Hancock's face turned red with anger. You are not allowed to call Uncle Edie. Why, I often wash Lady Edie's underwear, but you can't do anything, you can only eat. You idiot, you foodie. Gudong. Yamato swallowed the food in his mouth, wiped the oil from his mouth, and said naturally, Uncle Edie is a good man. I will marry Uncle Edie when I grow up. Hancock, you are also a good man. You cook for me every day. So, that's not for you. Also, Master Edie is my Prince Charming, so I won't marry you. The two little girls had a fierce dispute over Edie's ownership. The two sisters were at a loss. Sister, Mary, Sonia, come together to help. I'm going to teach this nasty white-haired boy a lesson today. Then, the four little girls struggled together, making a ping-pong ring sound, and the kitchen was very lively. The other side, news came from Geisa that the first artificial zone devil fruit has been successful. Edie immediately left the institute and went to Geisa's laboratory. In the laboratory plantation, through the huge arched glass barn, Edie saw several fruit trees. That might be an apple tree, full of red fruits. Whoops, Dr. Edie, look, this is really a great masterpiece. On the side, Guy took out an artificial devil fruit and showed it in front of Edie. Unlike real devil fruit, Guy's artificial devil fruit does not have a spiral pattern. Its shape is exactly like an apple, and the whole thing is red. Did you test it? Edie asked. Not yet. This is the first ripe fruit to be picked. This is my great invention and it will never fail. Guy said proudly, and then remembered that Edie was the boss, so he did not forget to share some of the credit. Of course, this is thanks to the ninja you sent here. Her ripening ability is really useful. Aaron is Edie's best tool. Not only can it help Qianlong ripen, but now she has another place to play her role. With the help of A Nin, Qianlong's physical age has reached 20 years old. Unfortunately, the strength of artificial humans is basically finalized on the day they leave the factory. Although it is possible to practice and become stronger, the effect of A Nin's ripe fruits is really limited. At least for artificial humans at the earthly branch level, it has no particularly big effect. You haven't even tested yet, why are you so anxious to come to me? Edie said with a speechless face, there are no patterns on these fruits. If you put them in a fruit basket, others will think they are apples. There's no spiral pattern, and there's nothing I can do about it. This is garbage made with animal blood factors. Guy reluctantly admitted that he was the one who made the garbage. It's okay to lie to others, but forget it to lie to Edie. Edie smiled. There are no patterns, can't you draw them? Can this still happen? Guy was shocked. In terms of not being a human being, he was resigned to being inferior. Test it first to see how it works. If the design goal is achieved, remember to think of a way that won't be exposed and draw devil fruit's unique spiral pattern on the surface. You can draw other patterns. Guy suggested in a low voice. Draw something else. Who knew it was devil fruit? Guy is enlightened. I understand, Dr. Edie, you are such a genius. He. Quote. Edie rolled his eyes, patted Guy's arm encouragingly, turned around and left. Looking at this kind of garbage again, he felt that his brain would be polluted. Leaving Guy's laboratory, Qianlong found him. My Lord Heavenly Father, according to the communication from Dufeld, the things you want are expected to arrive at Rocky Port in 3 days. After a pause, Qianlong continued. He said that he is not responsible for unloading the cargo. It is a paradise for pirates. Hearing this, the corners of Edie's lips raised and he said happily. It's time to go to Beehive Island. Edie took Shinho, rode Qianlong, and flew away from the flower capital in an honorable manner. Looking down at the earth from a high place, he saw the gradually polluted river water. Kaido smelt steel and manufacture arms in this country, and all wastewater was discharged into rivers. Why not discharge it into the sea? Edie can look at pollution objectively. But discharging sewage into domestic drinking water rivers is a bit too rough. There is obviously a better way. But then I think about it, this is a country ruled by pirates, and expecting pirates to be environmentally conscious is simply a joke. Soon, Qianlong flew out of Wano and came to the sky above the endless sea. The system prompt sounded suddenly. Your scientific research reputation has improved. Scientific research reputation 100% right pointing arrow 0%. Number of remaining simulations 1 right pointing arrow 2. The big news from more than a month ago continues to ferment, and the progress bar is finally filled today. There are 2 simulations. Leave one as a backup. Do you want to clone another subordinate? Edie thought seriously and found that his current combat power was still lacking. While thinking, he flew in the direction of Beehive Island for a while. Suddenly, Qianlong paused slightly. Lord Heavenly Father, a marine warship has been spotted below. Edie cast his eyes towards the sea in surprise. Because we are thousands of meters in the air, at this distance, a warship at sea is only the size of a melon seed. Do you want to destroy it? Qianlong immediately suggested. Marine is so audacious and wants to arrest you regardless of life or death. He should be punished by heaven. Go down and have a look. Yes. Qianlong was hostile to Marine and quickly lowered his altitude. At the same time, Marine large warship, observation deck on the mast. The lookout quickly discovered the approach of Qianlong. At noon when the visibility was good, such a huge body could not be hidden at all. That's Kaido. His face turned pale and he shouted hurriedly, no. Something bad is happening. Kaido is approaching us. What? Many sailors busy on the deck were startled and quickly raised their heads. From a distance of several hundred meters, Qianlong's huge figure is visible to the naked eye. Inform the Sengoku Admiral quickly. A colonel shouted immediately. No, I can feel the breath. Sengoku walked out of the cabin and stared up at the blue dragon in the sky. He noticed something was wrong at a glance. On top of Qianlong's head, there was a person sitting and another person standing behind him. That's not Kaido. Qianlong. Sengoku was stunned. More than a month has passed since the Sabayati archipelago incident. I didn't expect to encounter this group of people on the vast sea. All troops on alert. Sengoku immediately shouted an order. The next moment, the sailors took out their weapons one after another, and the black muzzles of their guns were locked in the sky. Marine Admiral, Buddha Sengoku. Edie sat cross-legged on top of Qianlong's head and spoke somewhat unexpectedly. He had met young Garp in Logue Town, and this was the first time he met young Sengoku. Qianlong hovered and stopped not far above the warship, its golden star eyes bursting with coldness. Scientist, Edie. Sengoku looked solemn. Encountering flying enemies at sea was a complete nightmare. I didn't expect to meet you in a place like this. What you did in Sabayati archipelago has caused us a lot of unnecessary trouble. Really, I'm sorry. Edie chuckled and said, what are you Marines doing running deep into the new world? Nothing to do with you. Sengoku was silent for a moment and said, how about we pretend we haven't seen each other? Ha ha ha, laughed. I'm a wanted criminal. Didn't you Marine issue a wanted order for me? Now I am in front of you, and you pretend not to see it. Mr. Sengoku, I didn't expect you to be such a salary thief. The word justice behind your cloak is crying. Edie's tone was joking and very happy. At first, the reward order was issued with a high profile, but now the wanted criminal is in front of him, and he dare not even say a harsh word. Of course he knew why. After all, this is the boundless sea, and the terrain would be unfavorable to marine in a fight. Go ahead, Edie ordered. Shen, who behind him heard the sound and moved, leaping down from the dragon's head in one leap. Marine on the deck was shocked and angry. Even if this idiot mocked him in person, he still wanted to board the ship. Etc. Sengoku immediately stopped the commotion among his men and prevented the conflict from breaking out. His eyes locked on Shenhu on the boat, and his face darkened. A mask I've never seen before. First of all, it's not Qianlong. Qianlong is flying in the sky. Nor is it Zishu, who is only as tall as a child. Shenho landed on the deck and immediately drew out the 2 samurai swords at his waist. Who are you? 12 earthly branches, Shen monkey. It's a new face indeed. Sengoku clenched his fists and tried to keep his tone calm. What does this mean? Mr. Sengoku, are you only allowed to issue a wanted order against me and not allow me to fight back? Edie smiled, then suddenly changed his tone and gave the command coldly, I want to see blood. Boom. Shenho stepped hard on the deck with his right foot, leaving a crack mark on it. In an instant, figures flew by. Oden Notoryu Taoyuan Shirataki. The 2 swords flashed. Stand back. Sengoku's expression changed drastically and he yelled angrily. While shouting, he crossed his arms in front of him, trying to block the blow. But the sailors had no time to react, and they didn't even see clearly what happened. Boom. The front half of the warship was cut in half horizontally, while the back half, the slash, was blocked by Sengoku's hands. Asshole, it's conquerors. Sengoku was frightened and angry, and blocked Shenhu's slashing attack. Conqueror's entanglement. The new earthly branch in front of me actually controls Conqueror's winding just like Zishu. Shenhu's face was expressionless and his eyes were extremely calm. Seeing that his attack was blocked, he immediately changed his sword moves. Sengoku took a deep breath, and his whole body burst into dazzling golden light. The next moment, his size expanded several times, turning into a golden Buddha. Zone Renren Fruit Phantom Beast Species Buddha Form. Buddha Hand Slap. The golden Buddha's hands joined together, and with a bang, Shenhu was suppressed between his palms. The 2 began to wrestle. Conqueror's conflict swept through the warship. In an instant, countless sailors on the deck fainted, and only a few remained conscious. As expected of Marine Admiral, Edie raised his hand and pointed, Qianlong. Qianlong twisted his body, raised his tail high, and slapped it down towards the warship. You, stop it. Sengoku was so stunned that he could only give up suppressing Shenho and wanted to prevent Qianlong from sinking the warship. Shenho didn't miss the opportunity. The Yama in his hand wrapped around Conquerors and slashed at Sengoku at an extremely tricky angle. Boom. The dragon's tail landed in the center of the warship, making a loud noise, and the large warship was snapped in 2. Sengoku didn't have time to stop it. One-on-one, he is not afraid of anyone. But 2 of the earthly branches joined forces, and one suddenly attacked, and the target was a warship. He was tired of dealing with it. In the chaos, Shenhu's knife fell on the leg of the golden Buddha, and there was a pop, and blood spurted out. Don't underestimate Admiral. Sengoku was completely angry and punched Shenho. Shockwave. The terrifying impact was restrained into a fan-shaped state, knocking Shenho back hundreds of meters with one blow. After suffering a heavy blow, a trace of bloodline escaped from the corner of Shenhu's mouth, and he rolled continuously at a height of more than 10 meters above the sea. When he was about to fall into the sea, Shenhu's wings suddenly spread out and he quickly stabilized his body. As expected, it's the Lunaria clan again. Sengoku's pupils narrowed and he quickly analyzed the situation on the battlefield. Qianlong can fly. Shen monkey can also fly. Today's dilemma, the best way. Moonwalk. Boom, boom, boom. A golden Buddha was ejected in the air at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, it was in front of Edie. Edie just smiled. Before Sengoku could launch his attack, Qianlong opened his bloody mouth and took a bite. Sengoku was bitten by Qianlong, with his hands and feet supporting the upper and lower jaws of the dragon's mouth respectively. Surrounded by enemies, Sengoku looked ugly and kept thinking about countermeasures. Hot breath. Chenryu showed no mercy. Scorching flames suddenly spurted out, and the dragon's breath devoured Sengoku. Boom! A red fire light penetrated 3,000 meters in the sky. Amidst the flames, the golden Buddha fell from the sky. Are you dead? Shenhu flew behind Edie. You can't die. You underestimate Admiral too much. You are no match for him one-on-one. Edie slowly stood up and stood on top of the dragon's head, looking into the distance. In the fall, the golden Buddha quickly shrank its body and returned to human form in an instant. You fools! Sengoku landed on a fragment of a warship and looked up at the sky with a very aggrieved expression. If he were on land, how could he bear this anger? Edie chuckled twice. Sengoku, are you here to redeem someone? How do you know? Sengoku's expression changed. Beasts pirates owe me a lot of money, and they have been making money crazily recently. Edie said with a smile. I am a peace-loving person, so I suggest that they don't kill Marine and leave it to you to ask for ransom. You. Sengoku was so angry that veins popped out on his forehead. What's there to be angry about? It wasn't my suggestion. All your Marine soldiers were buried in the sea. Hey, forget it if you don't thank me, but you just wanted to attack me. It was paid by mistake after all. Edie's tone was teasing, and he waved his hand. Today I'm just teaching you a lesson. Remove my wanted order as soon as possible. This is not a request, but an order. After finishing speaking, a trace of regret flashed in Shenlong's eyes. He really wanted to kill Sengoku here. I'm very busy. Goodbye, Admiral. There was a slightly mocking echo in the sky, and the green dragon gradually lifted Edie into the sky and disappeared among the white clouds. Sengoku's face looked uncertain. He had to re-evaluate the strength of the 12 earthly branches. If every earth branch is so strong, this will be even more difficult than Rock's pirate back then. The other side. Shinho wiped the bloodline on the Yanmo knife and handed the blood-stained cloth to Edie. Heavenly Father. Well done, Edie praised. Of course he was not bored and had to waste time with Sengoku. The blood of a Marine Admiral is usually not easy to collect. Turn on the system. This simulation project research on biological cloning in the pirate world, human, Sengoku, bloodline factor cloning technology. Necessary conditions for this study, blood factor theory, Sengoku's blood factor, Lunaria clan's blood factor. In the 7th year, you successfully created Sengoku 2. There was a flash of white light. Above the dragon head, a new compatriot appeared. Edie spoke softly. It's time for you to wake up, new compatriot. From now on, your codename is Wei Yong. Wei Yong was sitting there, and a kind and gentle voice came into his ears. From now on, your code name will be Wei Yong. He slowly opened his eyes and saw a young man in a white coat. The man stretched out his hand to him, as if to pull him to his feet. Heaven, Father, Wei Yong shouted naturally and took Edie's hand to stand up. Edie looked at the new earthly branch. The size of a normal human child is a little shorter than that of a rat, about 1.4 meters. He has a fluffy afro, a face with a Chinese character, a serious expression, golden starry eyes, brown skin and black wings. After getting up, Wei Yong looked up at Edie. Wei Yong. Yes, Heavenly Father. The person behind me is Shinho, the green dragon under our feet is Shenlong, and there is a Zerat in Wano. You are the 4th compatriot born. Am I the 4th child? It's just a matter of order. Next, we are going to capture Honeycomb Island, which will be our future cloning base. Edie smiled. Looking forward to your performance, Wei Yong. Father, you will rule over the world. Wei Yong knelt down on one knee and spoke in a serious tone. Beehive Island, also known as the Paradise of Pirates. It was the stronghold of the Rock's pirate, the former overlord of the ocean. In the Valley of the Gods incident 19 years ago, this pirate group fell apart. Those who died in battle, and those who fled, fled. The 3 pirate emperors of New World today were all from Rocks. And one of the crew members, named Aoku. He survived in the Valley of Gods, and now he has become a famous pirate, occupying the Hive. At this time, the Skull Hotel on Beehive Island. A pirate rushed in, shouting in a panic. Captain Aoku, no, there's a dragon in the sky. What, dragon? Aoku looked confused, pushed the woman in his arms away, got up and walked to the window. At first glance, his color suddenly changed. It's 100 beasts, Kaido. He's coming with bad intentions, Captain. The pirate said hurriedly. No, that's not Kaido, that's on the news. Aoku narrowed his eyes, remembering the news he saw some time ago. The 12 earthly branches, Shenlong, possesses the ability of the green dragon fruit. The reason for this judgment. Aoku saw a figure on the dragon's head. 3 figures. Kaido wouldn't let anyone stand on him, he knew Kaido. I remember his name was Edie. He was a scientist. Why did this guy come to my territory? Whatever you do, it's impossible to be a guest. Such a swaggering and pompous appearance does not look like good intentions. Not only Aoku, but also the large number of pirates gathered on this island now looked up to the sky. Kaido. No, it's the Shenlong in the rumors. 12 earthly branches. The one on top of the dragon is the evil scientist, Edie. The whole island was in shock because of Edie's arrival. Literally, the whole island. Literally, sensational. On the dragon's head, Edie let out a light sigh and looked at Beehive Island. The island came alive. The ground and walls shifted, and many boulders merged with each other. The largest building on the island, the Skeleton Hotel, also came to life, and even had a split mouth. No, Akoku's island fruit is activated. Near Rocky Port, a pirate captain exclaimed and loudly reminded his men. The pirates began to take refuge one after another. Ignoring the commotion on the island, the big skeleton opened his mouth and spoke. Are you Edie? Island fruit. Edie understands. One of the Paramecia devil fruits, it can assimilate everything on the island, as if it is a part of the body, and control it. Good afternoon, Mr. Aoku. Edie said calmly. Thank you for welcoming me with such a grand ceremony. HMPH, what do you want to do when you come to my territory? I want this island. What? If it's a joke, it's a bit too much. The big skull sounded very unhappy. Big pirates have a sense of territory. It would be quite unpleasant for anyone who is sitting at home and someone suddenly comes and wants your home. Not starting a fight on the spot was a sign of respect. The island fruit can be assimilated into an island, which sounds very powerful. But its flaws are also very obvious. If the assimilation part is attacked, it will be intuitively fed back to the main body. Edie smiled lightly and said, Give you a chance, Aoku. Give me the island and get out. You wanna die. Aoku was furious. The ground on Beehive Island suddenly bulged, and a huge palm stretched out and slapped Edie in the sky. Two-sword style. Shenhu's eyes narrowed. He ran a few steps on Shenlong's back, suddenly jumped up, and headed towards the giant palm. Flame Taoyuan 10 fists. The weapon color wraps around the blade, and then the divine fire of the Lunaria tribe is activated. The cross with double swords is like a meteor streaking across the starry sky. Gone in a flash. Boom. The island's giant hand collapsed instantly, and the cross-flying slash tore it apart. Ah! The big skeleton screamed loudly. In the skeleton's right eye, Akoku's right hand is dripping with blood and his face is ferocious. Captain Aoku. The pirate next to him was shocked. When the countless pirates on the island saw this scene, they all looked dull. The fight started. Destroyed Akoku's island fruit with one move. Who is that guy? He's definitely a great swordsman. The pirates looked up and saw the wings behind Shenho slowly fluttering and flying in midair. Then he turned to look at Edie above Shenlong's head. Gudong. Nervous swallowing sound. Monster. Edie stepped lightly, seemingly ignoring the height difference in front of him, and fell from Shenlong's head. Shenho, you suppress his island fruit. Miong, deal with Aoku before I get to the hotel. While speaking, the person has already landed. Edie started from Rocky Harbor Port and walked slowly towards the island. The green dragon above his head immediately shrank in size and followed step by step behind the Heavenly Father. As you command, Lord Heavenly Father. Wei Yong's wings trembled, and his figure flew past, invading the hotel through the skeleton's right eye. The pirates near the port subconsciously moved to both sides to clear the way. All eyes were on Edie. Many people even have a kind of trance illusion. It seems that the man in white in front of him is the master of Beehive Island and the real master of Beehive. He is like a returning king from Guy, patrolling his territory. And Aoku in the hotel is nothing more than a shameful thief. An almost straight road leads from the port to the Skeleton Hotel. Edie walked in the middle of the road, looking at both sides of the street from time to time. When the pirates caught his gaze, they all avoided him in fear, not daring to look directly at him. Edie! Someone dared to shout. Edie looked at each other with a smile. The man was startled, but he still asked. You want to take this island? Kill Aoku and you will be the master of the hive. Who are you? I am the captain of the Herald Pirates, Ripple Herald, with a bounty of 251 million Baileys. After introducing himself, the man said, this island has my casino. Edie said nothing and waited for the next step. You want to occupy this place, what happens next? Do you want to become emperor? Proclaimed emperor. Pirate emperor. Enter the era of 4 emperors from the 3 emperors. Harold's eyes sparkled and he was full of ambition. Lord Edie, please allow my Herald Pirates to join your command. Sorry, I'm not interested. Edie shook his head and continued walking towards the hotel. Harold was obviously not satisfied with this answer. He gritted his teeth and shouted at Edie's back. Then why are you here? Do research. Edie laughed a sentence without looking back and ignored the other party. He silently observed the situation on Beehive Island. This is indeed a paradise for pirates, and the environment on the island fully serves pirates. There are bars, brothels, casinos, and all kinds of entertainment venues. Edie is considering the location of the cloning laboratory. Countless pirates watched him walk away, walking from the port to Happy Street, walking in front of the bar, passing by the square, and finally arrived at the Skeleton Hotel. No pirate dared to show his teeth. Wherever you go, stay away. It's a bit boring. I thought there would be fierce resistance. Edie walked through the door of the Skeleton Hotel and walked into the core building of Beehive Island. The people in the hotel had already fled outside. Continue walking upstairs, taking the steps step by step. It's like taking a leisurely stroll in a garden, neither slow nor slow. Intel, the room with the skull's right eye. When Shenlong opened the door for Edie, the battle inside was over. A large golden Buddha holds Aoku in his hands, and beside him is Shenhu's knife resting on Akoku's neck. Aoku, who was covered in blood, was breathing rapidly. He looked up and saw the man in white walking in from the door. Edie came to Aoku with his hands in his pockets and looked down at him. I kindly gave you a chance, why not cherish it? I surrender. I choose to surrender. Aoku tried his best to smile, showing teeth full of bloodline. I surrender. I choose to surrender. Aoku is not a tough guy and can't be beaten, so join him. During the Valley of the Gods incident, he just saw that Rocks was about to be destroyed, so he decisively chose to run away, and that's how he survived. Now there is no difficulty in changing one's allegiance. Edie was noncommittal, bypassing Aoku, who was suppressed by Wei Yong and Shenhu and lying on the ground, and went straight to the soft sofa to sit down. He didn't believe in the pirates' surrender at all. The world of pirates is full of betrayals. You never know when they will stab you or betray you at the critical moment. There are very few cases like the Straw Hats. Aoku suddenly panicked at Edie's silence. Is this guy really going to kill himself? Dr. Edie, I was the one who spoke loudly just now. My power will definitely be useful to you. Your power does work. Edie then spoke and said, I originally planned to kill you, but your island fruit can help me build a laboratory. In 3 days, Dufeld's transport ship will arrive at Rocky Port. Originally, Edie planned to hire someone to build the laboratory, but now it seems that Aoku can do the job. Wait until the laboratory is completed before killing this man. This is called waste utilization. Let Aoku use his waste heat before he dies. Thinking of this, Edie took out a design drawing and a blood collection needle from his pocket. Follow the drawings, it's underground in this big hotel. This hotel will also need to be renovated accordingly. This will be my research institute from now on. Shenlong, go collect blood. Shenlong took the design drawing of the laboratory, took the lancet, and walked to Aoku without saying a word. He forcibly extracted a tube of blood from Akoku's arm before placing the blueprint in front of him. How could Aoku dare to resist? Now we are fighting for each other, so we can only accept all the arrangements of the other party. Heavenly Father. After drawing the blood, Shenlong returned to Edie and respectfully presented the lancet. Edie nodded and said, Little Wang, get up. Wei Yong and Shenho, why don't you help Xiao Wang up quickly? Shenho sheathed his sword and Wei Yong exited the Buddha form. But no one came to help. I'll get up by myself, I'll get up by myself. Aoku grinned in pain and gasped, then struggled to get up. He picked up the design drawing on the ground and looked at it, and then can't read. Suddenly he was sweating. What the hell is this? Structural drawings of some kind of building. Quickly flipping through the drawings, Aoku despaired. He swallowed the taste of blood in his mouth and said bravely, Dr. Edie, my ability can indeed control everything on the island, but I can't do it too finely. Let him turn the earth into a giant fist, easy. Let him build a laboratory underground, and the structure and size of the building must be extremely precise at every step. It is difficult. Edie smiled and said, Don't worry, professional workers will be here to assist you in 3 days. Please rest assured, I will definitely do a good job. Aoku quickly agreed, thinking that if he kept talking nonsense, he might change his mind. Shinho, Xiao Wang is injured now. You should follow him these days and be responsible for protecting him. Yes, Heavenly Father. Edie turned to Aoku and said, Take these 3 days to recover and renovate this hotel. Ming, I understand. Aoku smiled bitterly in his heart. Hey, he's being watched, and he won't be able to escape even if he wants to. After dismissing Aoku, Edie stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the entire island from the skeleton's right eye. Beehive Island is not big, not comparable to Wano, and about 10 times larger than the flower capital city. At this time, the pirates on the island were still watching, and many people were paying attention to the situation in the hotel. There are too many people, a mixed bag of good and bad. Edie whispered to himself, Sir Heavenly Father, why don't we simply block the port and kill all the pirates on the island? Chen Long suggested. You are a bit too extreme. Edie rolled his eyes. There are thousands of pirates on the island, from various pirate groups, and there are even more ordinary people. At this point, he suddenly paused. Are they really considered ordinary people? It should be the pirates who washed their hands in the Golden Basin, or the descendants of the pirates. A long time ago, Beehive Island was an uninhabited island. I don't know which group of pirates first landed on this island. Then more and more pirates came to the island, and it gradually developed into a pirate paradise. In short, it's not a good thing. The whole island lined up to be shot, and there might be many innocent people. But if every other person is shot, some fish may have slipped through the net. How about this? Edie turned around and ordered, Wei Yong, go block the port and notify all the pirate groups. If you want to stay on the island, buy indulgences, each of which costs 100,000 belly. Edie is not interested in knowing how Aoku managed Beehive Island in the past. But now the pirate group on the island must pay him. If you want to come here in the future, you have to pay. Come once and buy an indulgence. What if someone refuses to hand over? Wei Yong asked seriously. Then let them go. If they don't. As he spoke, the corners of Edie's lips raised slightly. Do you think my sword is harmful? A few days later, many pirates were extremely angry about the change of owners on Beehive Island and the sale of indulgences. They got angry for a while, and finally paid the money obediently. After all, Aoku was almost killed, and no iron-headed boy wanted to challenge Dr. Edie's butcher knife for the time being. Lord Wei Yong, if you buy an indulgence, does that mean all the bad things I did in the past are wiped out? There were also playful inquiries from pirates. Wei Yong replied, The indulgence is a ticket to heaven. Heavenly Father only charges you the ticket in advance. You don't have to pay after you die. The pirates were speechless. Are you going to collect the money I have to pay after my death while Lousy is still alive? What a fool. As a result, some pirates who couldn't bear the humiliation chose to leave. With the departure of certain pirate groups, what happened on Beehive Island quickly spread throughout the New World. New World, somewhere in the sea. Moby pirate ship. This is the main ship of one of the 3 pirate emperors of the New World, Whitebeard, Edward Newgate, a large 3-masted sailing ship. It looks like a huge white whale, with 38 artillery pieces installed on the lower decks on both sides. At this time, on the deck, the captain of the first team, Phoenix, Marco, is reporting the situation to Whitebeard. The scientist in the news a while ago seemed to have taken people to Beehive Island and killed Aoku. Tons. Whitebeard, who is still relatively young at only 55 years old, holds a huge wine gourd, raises his head and drinks boldly. Nice wine. Gu la la la. Whitebeard chuckled and said, Aoku is dead. I remembered a long time ago, when I was still on Rock's ship, and my relationship with Aoku was good or bad. What does the scientist want to do? He asked. I heard from the pirates who escaped that they seemed to be planning to do some research on the island. Marco's expression was strange, and he suddenly laughed and said, I have been selling indulgences there in the past few days. He briefly told the story of the Honeycomb Island indulgence. Whitebeard was stunned. The captain of the 3rd Division and veteran member, Diamond, Josie laughed out loud and said, Ha 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 ha, that guy is really a genius. The other pirates also laughed, and the deck was filled with joy. Ha 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 ha, indulgence, it's a shame he can think of it. Wait a minute, if you just want to collect money, why do you have to call for indulgences? Right, you have to pay once to go. Then don't those who go often have a bunch of indulgences after death? What will happen to the extra tickets to heaven? I can help him explain this. The pirates who left Beehive Island must have done a lot of bad things again. Of course they need to buy it again when they go back. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. A group of pirates laughed and cried, lying on the ground and hammering the deck with laughter. Dad, what do you think? Marco didn't laugh. He had already laughed when he knew it. Gu la la la. Whitebeard couldn't help but laugh a few times. Even though he is well informed, he has been a pirate for so many years and now he is the pirate emperor. This is the first time he has seen such outrageous things. Selling indulgences to pirates. The key is that many people really buy it. Not to mention Beehive Island in advance, did Kaido defeat a pirate group under our command some time ago? Whitebeard suppressed his smile. Speaking of this, Marco's face became serious, and the other pirates stopped laughing. Yes, Andre and his Andre pirates were all killed in action. Whitebeard asked expressionlessly, what do they mean? We have contacted Quinn under Kaido, but they have not given any explanation. Marco asked with a solemn face, Dad, what should we do? Boom. Whitebeard crushed the flagon in his hand, stood up and walked to the edge of the boat. Andre, who was his crew member more than 10 years ago. But with the expansion of the Whitebeard pirates, Andre chose to go out independently and form a pirate group of his own. That guy Kaido must have done a lot of things in Wano. I wonder what Odin is like. The person who killed me, do you think I will remain silent? Lousy as Whitebeard. Whitebeard yelled angrily, swung one arm, and punched the air with his right fist. Boom. The atmosphere cracked, as if the space was torn apart. In an instant, the originally calm sea became extremely turbulent. Go Wano. A week later, Beehive Island. With the assistance of Island Fruit, the main structure of Edie's cloning laboratory has been completed. The rest is decoration. Aoku can't help here. At this time, the Skeleton Hotel. No, it should be called Hive Research Institute now. Edie listened to Wei Yong's report. Lord Heavenly Father, a total of 1,675 indulgences have been sold these days, and a total of 167.5 million belly has been obtained. Quite a lot. It is comparable to the head of a pirate supernova, and it is not discounted. After all, a dead pirate can only receive 70% of the reward. That's good. Next time, the price of indulgences will be increased. Edie was a little surprised. Go bring Aoku. Yes. After a while, people arrived. Aoku is recovering well from his injury, but his right hand is still covered in a thick bandage. Dr. Edie, according to the design you gave me, I have. I know, you did a great job. Edie nodded, blew on the hot coffee, and said in a leisurely tone, so, you are no longer useful. Hearing this, Aoku's expression changed and he immediately wanted to run. Sudden, he was shocked and lowered his head in disbelief. A sharp blade penetrated his chest from behind, and blood slowly overflowed from the wound. Aoku's face was twisted and he stared at the man drinking coffee on the sofa. Burning bridges across rivers is too fast. I just completed the assigned task, but my butt is still hot and my injuries haven't recovered yet. Shenhu drew out his sharp blade, and then struck out again coldly. Another stab pierced Aoku's heart. Aoku opened his mouth and vomited out a large amount of blood, staining the clothes on his chest red. Why? I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Edie said with a gentle smile. Besides, I can't trust pirates, especially ones like you. Puff. Shino drew his katana again, and Aoku clutched his chest and fell down with a thud. Puff. Shinho moved as fast as lightning, and struck out for the third time, piercing Akoku's throat. Immediately afterwards, the fourth knife, the fifth knife. The knife stabbed down, giving Aoku no chance to counterattack. Okay, it's already dead. Throw the body into the sea and feed it to the sharks. Edie waved his hand. Yes. Shinho nodded, grabbed Akoku's hair, and dragged him out. A long bloodline was dragged on the ground. Shenlong brought a mop and started cleaning the floor. Edie looked at the table next to him, which was filled with all kinds of fruits. There are hundreds of kinds of fruits that can be purchased on Beehive Island. I stared silently for a minute, but nothing changed. As expected, Edie whispered to himself, if you kill the person with the ability, the fruit's ability will be reborn on the nearby fruit. This fruit needs to be made through a special method, and ordinary fruits will not work at all. If ordinary fruits could do it, this secret would have been discovered by others long ago. In the original work, Geisa did some research on this. Leave it to Geisa to study later. Just as I was thinking about it, I heard the sound of a phone bug coming from my pocket. Puff, 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 puff. Click. Edie answered the phone and heard Z Mouse's voice from the other side. Lord Heavenly Father, that half-blood, that Jin just came to the research institute. Mixed race. Edie cursed in his heart, and also understood the story compiled by Z Shu. The key is that one dares to say it and the other dares to believe it. What's up? Some time ago, in order to collect 20 billion in funding for this year, Kaido ordered his subordinates to rob ships at sea. Once, I accidentally killed a pirate group under Whitebeard. Now Whitebeard's Mobi has entered the waters near Wano. After listening, Edie frowned slightly. Is this asking you to tell me specifically? Yes. Jin said that the Flower City might become a battlefield, so the people in the institute should evacuate as soon as possible. There are quite a few people in the institute now. The three Snake sisters, Tianyushi and her daughter Rihei. And there's the female ninja A-Nin. As for Zishu, it doesn't matter. But the crux of the matter is not here. Zishu might not understand it for a moment, but Edie understood it as soon as he heard it. This guy Kaido is dragging me into trouble. Edie laughed. You really can't treat people like fools. Kaido is obviously no fool. The person who reminded him to evacuate the institute as soon as possible. No, this is telling him that I am about to start a war with the Whitebeard pirates. If you don't want me to lose and then be unable to pay back 200 billion, come and help me. The emergency calls are all so nice. No. Maybe this idiot did it on purpose. Why did you accidentally destroy a pirate group under Whitebeard? Don't you want to fly Whitebeard's pirate flag? You won't be blind and don't see it, right? Edie laughed angrily. Kaido, this big boss, actually plotted against him. Of course, this is just his guess. Even if that was the case, he had to help Kaido. It's really the uncle who's in debt. But what's the benefit to him from doing this? Edie frowned and thought for a moment, did he want to use his power to destroy Whitebeard? The turf war between the pirate emperors is not that intense, right? Although the New World is not big, it is not small either. Not to mention the 3 pirate emperors, the 4 emperors can also accommodate it. Master Heavenly Father, what should we do? Zishu asked for instructions, his tone eager to try. How about you let me kill Whitebeard? You tell Kaido, I understand. Edie hung up the phone, got up and walked to the window. Kaido owes him 200 billion, and he has to help Kaido. But if Whitebeard also owes him 200 billion, then he can just sit back and watch on the sidelines without helping each other. There is nothing wrong with this logic. Whitebeard's blood factor is pretty good. Thinking of this, Edie decisively ordered, Wei Yong, you and Shinho guard Beehive Island, Shenlong, follow me. The sea near Wano. After a week of sailing, the Mobi finally reached the Wano range. On the deck, Whitebeard stood on the bow of the ship, holding a naginata and squinting at the island ahead. Wano has a special geographical location. It is much higher than the sea level. There will be waterfalls on the edge of the island, pouring the seawater from the inland sea into the entire sea. To reach Wano, outsiders can only climb the waterfall and swim upstream. Or can fly. Dad, above the Mobi, a phoenix burning with cyan flames was in charge of lookout. There's something approaching quickly from behind us, Marco shouted. Behind, Diamond Josie was startled. Many captains turned around. Whitebeard frowned and looked behind the ship. Above the sea level, a black shadow flew quickly from the sky. As time went by, the black shadow grew larger and larger, gradually revealing a ferocious appearance. Kaido, a member of the 2nd Division, a fat man with dark skin exclaimed, "Kaido is so despicable, he came from behind. His name is Marshal D. Teach." "No, that's not Kaido. It's that, what's the dragon called?" Marco saw more clearly. He flew in midair, changing from the beast form of the immortal bird back to the human animal form. His arms turned into wings, which he flapped continuously to maintain height. "There is someone at the head of the dragon," Marco reminded again. While several people were talking, suddenly, boom! A huge conqueror's haki descended, and the sun in the sky was quickly blocked by black clouds, and the light quickly dimmed. "Gu la la la. It's that kid, Scientist Edie." Whitebeard grinned, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the same conqueror's haki suddenly broke out. The two conquerors formed each other's realm, as if two huge hollow spheres were squeezing each other. Manic black lightning danced in the atmosphere. Finally, after a loud bang, a huge wave tens of meters high was set off. As expected of Whitebeard, Edie stood on top of Chen Long's head and chuckled. "First time we meet, my name is Edie, and I am a scientist. First time we meet, my name is Edie, and I am a scientist." Edie stood at the faucet and introduced himself politely. He looked over Whitebeard and the many captains under his command. There are a total of 16 captains in the Whitebeard Pirates. Except for the dead 2nd Division Captain Kazuki Odin, the other 15 are here. In particular, the captain of the first team, Phoenix, Marco. Captain of the 3rd Division, Diamond, Josie. Captain of the 5th Division, Foil, Beasta. Even among the captains, these 3 people are particularly powerful. While he was looking at everyone, Whitebeard and others also looked up at him. Arriving on a dragon. Meet the conqueror's haki. Before Whitebeard could speak, Marco already had an unhappy expression on his face. "What's wrong with you guys? Don't leave conquerors around. What if you knock out my crew?" "Yeah," Edie lowered his head slightly. "Chenlong, don't leave conquerors around if you have nothing to do. It will be bad if it scares the children." "I'm sorry, Heavenly Father." Marco was speechless. Hey, isn't the right person to apologize to. He was about to start a fight, but Whitebeard stopped him and said with a grin, "La la la la, scientist boy, what are you doing here?" "That's a strange question, Whitebeard." Edie kept smiling. "I should be the one to ask you this. What are you doing here?" Hearing this, many captains' faces became serious. This tone of voice is not a good one. Whitebeard couldn't help but frown, and his eyes gradually became sharp. "From your tone, it seems that you are planning to stop me from doing anything." "Yeah, it had nothing to do with me originally." Edie was not interested in playing riddles, and laughed and said, "Ignorant is not guilty. Whitebeard, Kaido owes me 200 billion belly." "What?" All the captains were stunned. The numbers are so huge that the brain cannot comprehend the current situation for a while. Marco flapped his wings with disbelief on his face. "Stop lying. How much money is 200 billion? Do you really know what you are talking about?" He had never seen so much money in his life. "That's the thing. As Kaido's biggest creditor, I can't watch him get killed by you, otherwise who will pay me back?" "So," Edie said with a smile, "can you please tell me where you came from and where you are going back?" "Don't be ridiculous. Who do you think you are?" Marco was very angry and his wings trembled. Phoenix Seal. He was like a sharp arrow, his right leg turned into a bird's claw, and struck straight towards Edie. Hot breath. Chenlong opened his mouth and let out a dragon's breath. Boom! The scorching flames engulfed Marco, and the next moment, a charred figure fell from the sky. With a bang, it landed on the deck. And in such a short period of time, Marco had recovered, but his face was a little ugly. "Dad, this guy's power is exactly the same as Kaido's dragon breath. Really, it seems like it's not just superficial." Whitebeard is confused. Every fruit in the world is unique. Why is there a second azure dragon fruit? What he couldn't understand more than Edie's reason for coming here to stop him was this. I thought it was exaggerated in the news. Hey, kid. I don't call you hello, and I don't call you boy, stinky old man. Please call me Dr. Edie. La 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 la. That's really rude, Dr. Edie. Whitebeard grinned and said, you asked me to leave. What if I said no? If you don't want to leave, that's fine. I won't stop you. Everyone was stunned. What is this person doing? I thought I was going to start a war with them, the Whitebeard pirates. Spend half a day here teasing them. Edie put his hands behind his back and whispered. It's simple. I don't think the Beast's pirates can beat you Whitebeard pirates now. In case, I say just in case. What if you win and Kaido loses miserably? Then, the 200 billion he owes me, please be borne by your Whitebeard pirates, 20 billion per year for 10 years. After hearing this, everyone's expressions became much gloomier. Whitebeard laughed angrily. A punch was blasted through the air towards a person and a dragon in the sky. Boom! The atmosphere shattered like a mirror, and the power of the vibration was constrained to spread in a straight line, heading straight towards Edie. Roar! Qianlong roared, causing a terrifying wind pressure. The next moment, he flicked his dragon's tail and slapped it down in response to Whitebeard's punch. Boom! The two forces collided in the air, and the shock wave spread to both sides. In an instant, there were huge waves. Huge waves hundreds of meters high spread toward both sides of the center of the collision of forces. He actually blocked Dad's attack. Impossible. How is this possible? Does this dragon have the same strength as Kaido? More than a dozen captains gasped, unable to hide their shock. Even Whitebeard himself was quite surprised. No wonder they dared to come here to stop him and threaten to let him inherit Kaido's debt. The strength is extraordinary. Only, Whitebeard stared at Edie on top of the dragon, but saw that he had his hands behind his back, his face was calm, and he had no intention of taking action. You guys don't want to start a war with me with the strength of two people, do you? There has to be a limit when you look down on people. Who do you think lousy is? With an angry rebuke, Whitebeard's conqueror's haki suddenly climbed to a higher level. Black lightning swam like an electric snake and exploded violently. With a bang, Qianlong's tail was shot away. Seeing this, Edie hid his hands behind his back and silently turned the ring on his left little finger. Time fruit, start, he sighed and said with regret. Qianlong is indeed no match for you, Whitebeard. But, you don't want to leave and you don't want to take on the debt, which makes it difficult for me. As he spoke, he raised his right hand. The index finger and the thumb touched each other, making a snapping gesture. What does this guy want to do? Marco frowned. Be careful. All the pirates were on alert. But Whitebeard's expression suddenly changed. Top observation haki, predict the future. He saw a brief glimpse into the future that was seconds away. Etc. Whitebeard immediately stopped him. However, Edie apparently didn't listen to him. Along with waving his right hand forward, a crisp finger snap was heard. Snapped. A snap of fingers. The people of the Whitebeard pirates are still at a loss. Nothing happened. When someone has doubts, there was a flash of white light. Under everyone's feet, Moby body flashed with white light for a moment. Then, suddenly disappeared. This huge three-masted sailboat disappeared in an instant without anyone noticing. There were screams of surprise one after another. Thump, thump, thump. There was a continuous sound of falling into the water, and thousands of pirates fell into the sea together. I am a person with abilities. Save me, Joes yelled, trying to grab something. Even Whitebeard himself was falling into the sea. In this chaotic scene, no one reacted at all. Asshole. In midair, Marco's eyes widened in disbelief and he shouted, "What did you do?" While shouting, the body is already moving. He flapped his wings and quickly grabbed Whitebeard from behind. Hee. Edie smiled softly and said, "I'll teach you a little lesson." The scene was chaotic. Thousands of pirates were floating on the sea, and some quickly went to fish out the ability users who fell into the water. What kind of ability is this? Whitebeard's face was extremely solemn. I'm not in the habit of explaining things to others. Edie looked down at Whitebeard from above. Since you don't want to leave, then go ahead and I won't stop you. Saying that, Qianlong climbed up, grabbed Yanyan with his dragon claws, and quickly flew in the direction of Wano. The many pirates soaking in the sea looked at each other and could only watch one person and one dragon go away. On the dragon's head, Edie looked back slightly and glanced at the white group of people from the corner of his eye. A long voice floated from the sky. If you can defeat Kaido, you will inherit the 200 billion debt. This is not a request, this is a notification. Farewell, Whitebeard. As Edie rode away on the dragon, the dark clouds covering the sea gradually dissipated. The sun returns, but the pirates soaked in the seawater did not feel any warmth. What happened? Why did the ship disappear? Devil Fruit's space teleportation type ability. The dragon riding gave our Moby. Everyone was shocked and angry. What was surprising was that the abilities displayed by Edie and Chenlong were a bit terrifying. What makes them angry is that the Moby disappeared. It was the main ship that had been following them for many years, just like family. Between words, suddenly, on the rough sea, a moment of white light flashed again. Amid everyone's shocked expressions, Moby reappeared without any warning. The big ship fell into the water and stirred up a wave of waves, which kept swaying with the waves. Well, everyone was sluggish. Then one by one revealed the surprise of what was lost and found. Great, the ship is back. Soon, many pirates from the Whitebeard pirate group climbed back on the ship. One by one, the drowned rats quickly took off their clothes and squeezed out the water. We are all pirates, and there are no women on the ship, so there is nothing to be embarrassed about. Dad, the captains gathered around Whitebeard. Whitebeard also took off his clothes, squeezed the water out with a twist, and then grabbed the shoulder corners of the cloak and shook it. I'm afraid the 200 billion thing is true, Marco said with a solemn expression, that Dr. Edie, and the 12 earthly branches under his command. Others don't know, but Chenlong is simply Kaido. If there were 12 such strong men, it would make sense that Kaido owed money. What should I do? Understand. The man said he wouldn't stop it, but no one knows whether he will participate in our war with the Beast's pirates. Once they join, we will be at an absolute disadvantage. Moreover, even if we don't intervene, we defeat the Beast's pirates and still face debt afterwards. How? Why should we inherit the money owed by Kaido? The captains were filled with indignation, and the 3rd district of Japan was defeated. Whitebeard grinned. Don't worry. Since that guy said he wouldn't stop it, he won't stop it. Otherwise, he won't return the ship to us. Likewise, Whitebeard is very aware. In the end, Edie said that if he defeated Kaido, he would have to pay back the money for Kaido. This is also a tough attitude. Asterisk 200 billion, such a huge amount of money, even Kaido has to repay it in 10 years. Whitebeard's eyes shone with wisdom. This kind of big money is not used for personal enjoyment. I'm afraid it is used for scientific research. That guy is a scientist. How difficult is it to spend all 200 billion? A person lives in a state of intoxication every day, drinking the best wine, eating the best food, playing with the most beautiful women, and spending all his money on his grandchildren. You can even buy a small country and become the king. There will definitely be some kings willing to sell their country. Is it used to study devil fruit? Marco's heart moved, and he suddenly thought of Chenlong. Chenlong, one of the 12 earthly branches, has the ability of the azure dragon fruit. As soon as these words came out, everyone couldn't help but nod. Then their expressions changed dramatically. The research has been successful. That scientist was able to perfectly replicate devil fruit, even a phantom beast species. It's unbelievable. Is that why Kaido owes 200 billion because of this? Dad, I think we should retreat now. That's right, maybe the beast's pirates already have a lot of blue dragon fruit now. Scientist Edie, this guy is so scary. The captains shuddered and were so frightened that they were sweating coldly. They even imagined a scene. When they land in Wano, what greets them will be several, even dozens, of blue dragons flying in the sky. Gu la la la. You don't need to scare yourself. Whitebeard laughed loudly and said, the stronger one is Kaido, and Chenlong just now. The azure dragon fruit is indeed very strong, but not just anyone who eats it will have a fighting power comparable to Kaido. Dad, we will all follow you. Tell us, what should we do next? The captains looked at each other, and finally looked at Dad. They are all Whitebeard's sons. They will go wherever their father goes, and they will not flinch even in the face of swords and fire. Marco, you enter Wano from the air first to conduct reconnaissance. Don't go too deep. Be careful of traps and stay in contact at all times. As he spoke, Whitebeard picked up the naginata beside him, walked naked to the waist, walked in front of thousands of sailors, raised his arms and shouted. Little ones, you are all my children. The same goes for dead Andre, everyone is my family. The beast's pirates killed our family, and we want to avenge our family. Even if the opponent is Kaido of the beasts, I will let everyone know. In this sea, no matter who dares to touch my Whitebeard, he must pay the price with blood. Follow Lousy and go to Wano. Whitebeard yelled. Ooh, avenge your family. Dad, we will all follow you. The pirates swept away their morale, which had been hit by Edie, and raised their fists in response to Father Whitebeard's call. The shouts of all the people spread to the distant sea. Wano, the capital of flowers. Edie returns to the institute. Master Edie. Hancock's eyes lit up as he was sitting at the entrance of the institute, and he ran over in surprise and fell into Edie's arms. Edie was hit all over by this little girl. Master Edie, where have you been during this time? I thought you had abandoned us. Hancock raised his head and sounded a bit coquettish. Edie rubbed her head and smiled. Go and do some important things. Hancock, did you practice well while I was away? He found that this little girl was a little clingy to him and had a strong sense of dependence on him. This behavior has become more and more obvious since bringing the three sisters back, especially Hancock. Maybe it's the lack of fatherly love. The daughter country, as a country composed entirely of women, has no father since childhood. I have practiced well. Hancock raised his head and said proudly, now that I have mastered armament hockey, I will definitely be able to help Master Edie in the future. As a warrior born in Kuji, who was able to board the ship of the Kuji pirates at a young age, Hancock himself has the foundation of hockey. The so-called mastery is probably to truly stimulate the abilities that you have almost mastered before. Edie was not surprised at all. After all, she is the future pirate empress. It's amazing, Hancock. I have to keep working hard and awaken conquerors from now on. Yes, Master Edie. Hancock enjoyed Edie's head touching, with a smile on his face. At this time, Zishu jumped down from the roof of the research institute. My Lord Heavenly Father, during your absence, everything at the institute will be as normal. Thanks a lot. Edie nodded and ordered, call Geisa. Soon after, Research Institute, reception room. Hancock obediently went to make a cup of coffee and handed it to Edie as if he was taking credit. Seeing this, Guy pointed to himself, where's mine? I'm the guest, Hancock. No. Hancock snorted. Quote. Guy was speechless. This little girl is not cute at all. Edie said funny. How did the fruit test go? Geisa immediately said. The success rate is about 10%, and a method has been found for the spiral pattern on the peel. There are just a few flaws. Speaking of the last part, he made a 100 million ... sign with his index finger and thumb. What flaw? After eating the artificial fruit, if you fail, you will turn into a stupid fool who can only giggle. Guy answered bravely. He will never admit that this is his failure. As for the reason, he couldn't find it. But doctor, I will solve this problem in the next generation of products, just give me a little more research funding. Please give me flowers. Edie was lost in thought. In the original work, the artificial zone devil fruit smile developed by Guy Saw also has this flaw. How did it come to this? If you fail, you can only giggle. Edie suddenly thought of the rubber fruit, which seemed to behave similarly after awakening. After Monkey D. Luffy turns on the 5th gear and enters the Nika form, he can still laugh even if his companions and friends are being beaten up. What's the connection? For a while, Edie couldn't figure it out either. How many finished products are there now? There are 3 fruit trees in the laboratory's cultivation room. Excluding the fruits consumed in the test, there are currently 101 fruits in total. What about the cost? Guy laughed dryly. Including the initial research and development costs, a total of 2 billion was consumed. If mass-produced, it should be able to cost 5 million Baileys each. This kind of garbage actually costs 5 million. Edie couldn't help but shake his head. But it doesn't matter, it was sold to Kaido anyway. If you want better artificial fruits, then keep investing money. Anyway, the previous 2 billion has been spent. Take your artificial fruit and follow me. Want to meet Kaido? The Whitebeard pirates are coming. I stopped him a little and let him deal with it on his own. He has only two purposes. First, get Whitebeard's blood. Second, let Whitebeard also sponsor some research funds for him. Wano Kuni, General's Mansion. Edie ignored the pirates guarding the door and led people to look for Kaido. As soon as he passed a corner, a little white-haired girl suddenly jumped into his arms. Uncle Edie, Yamato shouted happily. Edie looked helpless. He realized that he was a little too attracted to the little loli. Where's your dad? Edie knelt down, smiled and pinched Yamato's pink cheeks. Father is drinking. Uncle Edie, let me take you there. Yamato happily pulled Edie along. Soon, the group of people met a slightly drunk Kaido in the luxurious Japanese room. Seeing someone coming in, I burped. Little guy, it's not good to drink in the daytime. Edie is smiling. Hearing this title, Kaido sobered up a lot. Edie. The Whitebeard pirates will land in Julie soon. I said hello to them when I came back. Oh, finally here. Kaido grinned and stumbled to his feet. Hello, you're like drunk and you need me to help you sober up. Edie's smile remained unchanged and he asked in a gentle tone, by the way, why did you attack the pirate group under Whitebeard? You'll be on my side, Edie. Kaido laughed too. Edie's appearance here represents an attitude and a stance. This war is definitely won. There is only the difference between a small win, a medium win, and a big win. I won't get involved until you decide the winner. Edie shook his head. I hate it when others plot against me. So, you'd better give a satisfactory reason, otherwise. He didn't say anything else. Oh. Kaido drank a bottle of wine and laughed. This is not fair, Edie. I am the only one who owes you so much money. You don't mind Whitebeard sponsoring your research institute, right? Hearing this, Edie was happy and laughed and said, Okay, I like honest people like you. So, will you help me? I will help you. Edie suppressed his smile and said lightly, Don't put the battlefield in the Flower City, I have people here. Kaido didn't answer, walked to the window, opened it, and turned into a blue dragon and flew away. I will defeat Whitebeard in 9 Mile. Let Whitebeard feel my pain too. What an impatient drunkard. Watching Kaido fly away from the window and fly towards Julie, Edie couldn't help but shake her head. He could accept Kaido's explanation. No matter what the other person wants to do. He randomly found a target to vent his anger to, and accidentally injured Whitebeard. Still want to borrow his power and swallow up part of the territory from Whitebeard. These are all minor issues. It's about the fruit. Guy picked up the bag in his hand. It's not common for the royal family to fight, so it's a good show. Edie pointed to Chen-Long with his eyes. Immediately, Chen-Long also came to the window, jumped out, and turned into a green dragon in midair. Then, the faucet lowered its head, just in front of the window. Uncle Edie, I want to go too. Yamato jumped on the spot, opened his hands and made a request. Edie picked up the little girl and chuckled. Little girl, do you worship me now? Uncle Edie, I want to marry you when I grow up. Yamato said naturally and without shame. Upon hearing this, Guy almost burst out laughing, then quickly covered his mouth. Ha ha ha. Edie laughed. Uncle, I will wait for you to grow up. Hey, maybe he won't be so cute when he grows up. Saying, 2, 5, 3, in his heart, Edie hugged Yamato and stepped onto the dragon's head. Afterwards, everyone headed in the direction of Julie. Guri area, near the coast. Marco transformed into a phoenix and flew from the inner sea to the land. He followed Whitebeard's instructions and took the lead in going ashore for reconnaissance. Looking at this familiar coast, Marco felt quite nostalgic. 11 years ago, the Whitebeard pirates visited Wano Kuni once, and the Mobi ran aground here. It was also here that they met Kazuki Oden, the daimyo of Guri. I wonder how Oden is doing now, Marco thought. Originally, Kazuki Oden stayed on the ship for 4 years before being poached by the nasty Roger. A year later, Roger became the Pirate King. In total, I haven't seen it for 7 years. Wait, what is that? While reminiscing about the past, Marco's flying figure suddenly stopped. Look into the distance. On top of the towering peaks, huge chimneys emitted black smoke. Are those factories? Marco was stunned. Suddenly, from the direction of the black smoke, a big black bird flew towards this side quickly. After a few seconds, Marco saw the other party's appearance clearly. That's not a bird, it's a dragon, Pteranodon. Kaido's right hand, fire disaster, embers. Marco's expression changed. He didn't expect to be discovered as soon as he arrived. Obviously the other party had been prepared. Without any time to think about it, he turned around and flew away. Where are you going? Marco the Phoenix. Jin suddenly burst out into a burst of high-speed, supersonic flight. Before the sound of breaking through the air could be heard, people had already intercepted Marco. The sharp beak, like a speeding spear, was about to penetrate Marco from behind. Marco had to turn around, raise his right leg, and attack with a claw. The two collided in the air, making a dull roar like a thunderbolt from the blue. You're well armed, Jin. As they spoke, the two suddenly separated and flew upside down for a distance. Jin took the first step to stabilize his body. He pulled his head back like a slingshot, and then released it to deliver an astonishing impact. Diao Zhengwang. This blow was like a laser, instantly piercing the phoenix's chest. However, the pierced chest returned to the same state in the blink of an eye as the green flames spread. Troublesome ability, regeneration speed is so fast. Jin snorted coldly. Marco, however, was not interested in fighting and quickly left the battlefield and flew towards the coast. He changed from animal form to human animal form. Quickly pulled out a phone bug. Dad, there is an ambush. The other side, Wano Kuni Inland Sea, located close to the Kuri coast. The Mobi had already boarded the waterfall, and the sandy coast was in sight. Whitebeard hung up the communication and squinted his eyes at the sky. The top observation hockey spread upwards and soon felt an extremely powerful aura. Yula la la, Kaido, are you ready to die? Oh ha 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 ha, long time no see, hiccup. Whitebeard. A huge green dragon poked its head out from the clouds, its sharp and breathtaking eyes locked on the Mobi lair. Kaido. This time it's the real Kaido. Foil Beasta looked solemn. Whitebeard laughed, bent his knees slightly, and the next moment, he jumped suddenly. Conqueror's haki exploded wantonly, wrapping around the Naginata. You're drunk, Kaido. With a loud roar, Whitebeard wielded the supremely sharp sword Kong Yunchi and slashed towards the dragon's head in panic. On the blade part, the ability of shock fruit is applied to it, and Conqueror's haki is wrapped around it. This knife is enough to tear the sea apart. Kaido seemed to be really drunk, and his reaction speed was unusually fast. It was not until Kong Yunchi was about to hit his head that he suddenly came to his senses. Hot breath. Raise the dragon's head and open its mouth to breathe. However, the red flames failed to finish radiating, and the sword fell on the head. Boom. Kaido's eyes were about to bulge out, and black and red lightning burst out like endless snakes. The next moment, Kaido's dragon head suddenly fell into the sea, causing a huge wave. It hurts. Awakened by the blow, Kaido quickly raised his head from the sea, shrinking his huge dragon body. In a blink of an eye, people were already standing on the coast. Blood spilled from the corner of his mouth, and he snorted coldly, saying, "Do you want to die here?" Whitebeard. This country is already my territory, and I am now General Wano Kuni. General. Whitebeard landed on the deck again and couldn't help but frown. Where is Kazuki Oden? Ah, Kazuki Oden. That idiot is already dead and was executed by me in public. Kaido mocked on the spot. Come to think of it, he seems to be your former captain. As soon as these words came out, veins popped up on Whitebeard's forehead, and he laughed angrily. It seems there is another reason for revenge. He didn't even bother to ask why Tien wanted to attack his pirate group. Meaningless. What happens if you know the answer? The boats have already arrived here. No matter what, everyone has to fight. Josie, you stay on the boat for now, I'll open the way. Giving the order with suppressed anger, Whitebeard held Kong Yunchi tightly, ran a few steps on the deck, and suddenly jumped. It's not fair to use cold weapons against empty hands. Suddenly, a joke came from the sky. Edie stood on the faucet and threw a mace down. Kaido reached out to catch it, and immediately struck Whitebeard with a fierce blow. Thunder 8 trigrams. The collision of two pirate emperors, the clash of mace and naginata. A powerful blow that surrounds Conqueror's haki. Boom. It was as if the color of the world changed. With the two of them as the center, the shock wave spread out, the sand was rolled up, the waves were flowing backwards, and the terrifying shock wave made people unable to open their eyes. Dad. Josie looked worried. Kaido and Whitebeard were in a stalemate for tens of seconds, directly changing the nearby terrain. All the sand within 100 meters radius has disappeared, forming a huge hollow. Sudden. Kaido was repelled and flew upside down into the forest on the shore. Whitebeard was also rebounded by the force, but he stabilized his center of gravity immediately and landed steadily. He raised his head suddenly and squinted his eyes to look at the sky. In the sky is another dragon. Didn't you agree not to interfere? Dr. Edie. Kaido was drunk and didn't bring any weapons when he came, so I kindly helped him. Edie said with a smile. This is basic fairness. Whitebeard was silent. He saw another earthly branch behind Edie. The earthly branches all wear masks, which can only be judged by the style of the masks. That's Zemo. It was on the news. Are you dissatisfied? Zishu laughed and said, Heavenly Father, you really didn't ask me to go down and hack him to death. You are a bit too extreme. Edie shook his head, his tone still gentle. Whitebeard, I actually admire you as a person. If you can come to Wano Kuni to seek revenge on Kaido in a rage for the crew under your command, everyone will praise you, and I am no exception. This guy, his attitude is too high. Whitebeard is very wary of Edie. If this person intervenes in the fight, he really has no confidence that he can fight one against two, or even one against many. If you give him a knife at a critical moment, he won't be able to withstand it. Gu la la la, what do I need to do to make you stay away? Whitebeard smiled. 2.2 is too close, does it scare you? Edie chuckled lightly, but didn't mean to stay away at all. He still stepped on the faucet and looked down from 100 meters above. Whitebeard's heart sank. Although he didn't want to admit it, the other party gave him a lot of pressure just by standing there. You seem to be short of research funds. Kaido will give you 20 billion every year, right? Whitebeard narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, 10 billion Baileys. Leave 10 kilometers away. Hearing this, everyone in Baituan who was still on the boat looked shocked. Roasted dad actually. 10 billion Baileys, just to make the other party move 10 kilometers away. If they hadn't heard it with their own ears, they wouldn't have believed that their father would say such a thing. That scientist put so much pressure on Dad. Edie was also a little surprised by this and couldn't help but admire Whitebeard's magnanimity and decisiveness. But that doesn't make sense. What he wants is not 10 billion, but 200 billion. MB. Whitebeard, I can refuse your request, but I have a new proposal. Edie took out a dagger from his pocket and threw it lightly downwards. Cut yourself and I will retreat 10 kilometers. A dagger fell from the sky. Whitebeard reached out and held it, a trace of doubt flashing in his eyes. Is this a toy? Its length is only a dozen centimeters, half of which is occupied by the handle. Compared with his own body size of 6.66 meters, calling this thing a toy would be an exaggeration. What does it mean? Beat yourself, I can agree to your request. Edie repeated. This little toy won't have any effect on me. Is it poisonous? Whitebeard looked up and asked. Don't ask for 10 billion, but let him chop himself with this toy. He didn't understand why, or maybe the other party guessed that he didn't have 10 billion. Use this to humiliate him. It may sound a bit unbelievable, but Whitebeard really can't get 10 billion belly. He was born in a poor country that could not afford the sky's gold. He went to sea to become a pirate when he was very young. Most of the stolen money obtained over the years has been sent back to his hometown, leaving only some for himself to maintain the survival of the pirate group. It can be said that among the 3 emperors today, he is the poorest. No poison. You don't believe it? Edie shook his head. You can refuse, I will be here to watch your fight until the moment the winner is determined. No, I believe it. Whitebeard stabbed himself in the abdomen with a dagger. To be honest, I didn't feel anything at all. Compared to the injuries he has suffered in battles over the years, this dagger is indeed a toy. Dad, this is definitely some kind of trap. The captain's 15 on the pirate ship shouted, and Josie looked up angrily at the dragon in the sky. Gu la la la. There's no need for that. Whitebeard laughed boldly and pulled out the dagger. He could only hold the gadget with 2 fingers. I have complied with your request, will you keep your word? Of course. Edie nodded. Qianlong, let's retreat 10 kilometers. Zishu, throw it away and recover it. After saying that, Qianlong turned around and flew away from the beach. Zishu jumped down, flapped his wings, and arrived in front of Whitebeard in the blink of an eye. There was a bit of regret in his eyes. Give it to me. Are you, Zishu? Without saying a word, Whitebeard held the Kong Yunqi in his left hand and slashed it with one blow. Zishu drew his knife to resist. Boom! Without contact between the two weapons, a red energy ball was produced in the center. Conqueror's fierce collision. Ha 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 ha, do you want to stretch your muscles with me? That's great. Zishu was delighted. Nothing, just saying hello. Whitebeard tested it for a moment, then immediately stopped and threw the blood-stained dagger away. This earthly branch is very strong, and Haki is on par with him. No, even slightly stronger than him. Zishu grabbed the dagger and said, you really don't want to fight me? Warm up with me. Are you from the Lunaria clan? Whitebeard remained calm, noticed the black wings behind Zmouse, and couldn't help but ask. I am pure blood, and all of our 12 earthly branches are pure blood Lunaria. Zishu said in disappointment, idiot, then turned around and flew away. Pure blood Lunaria. Is this race divided into pure blood and mixed blood? Whitebeard had never heard of pure blood, but he knew very well about the Lunaria clan. After Roger became the Pirate King, he had a meeting with him and told him many things. After seeing that Edie did retreat as promised, Whitebeard temporarily put aside his worries. Come out, Kaido, don't play dead there. Oh ha 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 ha, do you really want to kill me? Newgate. Ridicule came from the forest. Kaido shouldered the mace and strode out. Behind him are a group of Beast's Pirates members led by Quinn. Seeing this, Josie and other captains on the Moby also jumped off the ship one after another, and came up behind Whitebeard showing off their special abilities. Suddenly, the two royal groups launched an all-out confrontation. Gu la la la, let's decide the winner. Kaido. With an order, the pirates on both sides immediately launched an attack. The other side, Edie exited 10 kilometers and stood on the top of the mountain, looking at the battlefield. Whoops, Dr. Edie, Whitebeard is completely under your control. Guy flattered him. This was not an unintentional statement, he did think Edie was a bit scary. Whitebeard, one of the 3 majestic emperors, was forced to kill himself. He tried to get Whitebeard to think about ways to break the situation, but the answer was that there was nothing he could do. As long as Edie and earthly branches are nearby, Whitebeard has to devote some of his energy to being on guard. This is extremely disadvantageous when fighting Kaido. You sent the artificial fruit over and took this opportunity to see the combat effectiveness of this artificial zone ability user. I'm alone. Guy was startled, and cold sweat covered his cheeks. You are alone, Edie said with a smile. I promised Whitebeard not to get close to the 10-kilometer range before the winner was determined. Do you want me to break my promise? I understand. Can you send someone to protect me? I don't have much fighting ability. The battlefield is very dangerous. A Logia user says he has no fighting ability. Edie didn't bother paying attention. Seeing that asking for bodyguards was in vain, Geisa had no choice but to carry a large bag of artificial fruits and quietly headed towards the battlefield. Yamato lay on a rock and stared at the battlefield 10 kilometers away. Even at the top of the mountain, at a distance of 10 kilometers, one could barely see the pirates on both sides fighting fiercely. Edie is also observing. This observation lasted only one day. The two pirate groups were like war machines and did not need to rest. They fought from day to night, causing countless casualties. The fight between Kaido and Whitebeard was extremely fierce. But it is obvious that Kaido is at a disadvantage and is suppressed by Whitebeard. Strangeness. These people have a little bit of haki, which is consumed in battle and will be restored after a while. Haki, exactly, what can haki be? Edie couldn't help but feel confused. As everyone knows, to activate abilities, an ability user consumes physical strength. When the physical strength is exhausted, it is difficult to activate abilities. But not haki. Haki is consumed in a short period of time and will be restored after a period of time. For example, in the original work, Monkey D. Luffy 2 years later. Using 4th gear will greatly consume haki. When haki cannot support it, it will exit 4th gear. But after a while, the guy's haki recovered and he could use 4th gear again. The situation at hand is similar. Whether it's the Whitebeard pirates or the Beast's pirates, there's always a bit of hockey in the fish. Similar phenomena keep happening to them. What is the source of hockey's energy? What supports hockey's continuous consumption and natural recovery? A person's vitality. But vitality is too abstract. Physical strength. Not just physical strength. Edie couldn't understand. Late at night, the battlefield is still fierce. But the little girl Yamato, who was watching the battle, lay down on the stone and fell asleep. She slept soundly, and there was still saliva at the corner of her mouth, as if she had dreamed of something delicious. Edie was helpless. What is this little girl doing here? Heavenly Father, do you want to send her back to Wado? Qianlong suggested. Forget it, let her rest. Edie took off his white coat and covered Yamato's body to prevent the little girl from catching a cold, although he thought it was unlikely that Yamato would catch a cold due to his constitution. Then, he took out the blood-stained dagger he bought during the day. After pondering for a moment, he decided to clone the fifth earthly branch. Currently, he still has one simulation saved, which he originally planned to use for research on hockey, but today he accidentally obtained Whitebeard's bloodline factor. You can leave it alone, or you can clone it first. This simulation project research on biological cloning in the pirate world, human Edward Newgate bloodline gene 813 subcloning technology. Necessary conditions for this research: blood factor theory, Newgate's blood, Lunaria's blood. Necessary conditions have been met. Simulation begins. In the first year, you have already mastered the cloning technology. You go to the cloning base on Beehive Island and start cloning the new earthly branches. In the third year, you have ample funds. Kaido's annual research funding of 20 billion allows you to carry out the cloning project with ample margin. You successfully created Whitebeard number 1. You ordered him to commit suicide. He committed suicide. In the fifth year, you successfully produced Whitebeard number 2. Like Qianlong, he is born with demon fruit power. Your research was very successful. End of simulation. Similar to the situation of Wei Yang, no new key knowledge was obtained. Edie skipped the scientific research awards and the funds spent on them, and went directly to the last item. Additional reward: Whitebeard number 2. Do you want to receive it? Receive. There was a flash of white light, and a big man appeared in front of Edie. The new android is over 2 meters tall, especially the chin, which is exactly the same as Whitebeard. Lord Heavenly Father. Whitebeard number 2 opened his eyes and immediately knelt down on one knee. Welcome to join, compatriot. Edie smiled and spoke softly. From now on, your code name. Having said this, he paused slightly. 17 years later, in order to save Ace, Whitebeard led the Whitebeard pirates to challenge naval headquarters. The end, death in battle. In order to safely allow the crew to escape Marineford and head to the New World, Whitebeard blocked almost all pursuing Marine forces. Even if half of his head was blown off by a punch from the future Admiral Akainu, he would still die standing. He can be called a true hero. Your name is Wuma. The sky gradually became dimly lit. After a night of fierce fighting, the Beast's pirates were retreating steadily. Your people can't hold on any longer. Marco was still fighting with Jin, and the two flying ability users' fighting moves were all deadly. However, one person has the Phoenix Fruit ability and can constantly repair injuries. The other person is from the Lunaria clan, whose divine fire is ignited and their defense power is doubled. There is only one ending to the war: Lord Kaido will win. Jin's eyes were cold, his mask was damaged in the battle, revealing his true appearance. A head of slightly curly white hair spread over her shoulders. The center of the battlefield not far from the two of them. The remaining limbs and arms were broken, and the beach was dyed red with blood. Beast's pirates had thousands of pirates, more than half of whom were killed, and most of the remaining half fell to the ground, with only less than 100 people still struggling to hold on. Morale has collapsed, that is, if Kaido was there to deter them, otherwise they would have started to flee. It is impossible to expect the pirates to persist in fighting to the last man under such huge casualties. In comparison, the Whitebeard pirates' damage was much less. It is also a force of 1,000 men, but Whitebeard has 15 captains with outstanding combat capabilities. In the comparison of mid to high-end combat power, it has an overwhelming advantage. At this time, Josie and Beasta besieged Quinn together. Quinn, Zone Dragon Fruit Ancient Species Brachiosaurus Form. After a day and night of fierce fighting, facing the combined attacks of several white team captains alone, his physical strength has bottomed out. Hahu, hahu. Slowly exiting the Brachiosaurus form, the fat man Quinn half knelt on the ground, breathing heavily. Punch me, shine heavy hammer. Josie ran forward, jumped high, his right foot turned into an extremely hard diamond, fell from the sky, and stepped hard on Quinn's back. Boom. Suffering another heavy blow, Quinn fell to the ground and spit out blood. Your hockey has been exhausted, it's your loss. Beasta came over, pointing his sword at Quinn who fell to the ground, with the tip of the knife against his neck. You fools, wheel fighting is too despicable. Quinn's face was ashen. You are the one who is despicable, bring out the antidote. Beasta snorted and said, many of us have inhaled your poisonous gas, please bring out the antidote. He, there is no antidote. That is the poison gas bomb I recently developed, but unfortunately it is not very effective. What did you say? Josie was furious and hit Quinn hard in the face with his fist. Snapped. A hand suddenly grabbed his arm from behind. What? Chowzi's expression changed. When did he get close? The victory has been decided. This is the antidote you want. Thank you Heavenly Father for your mercy. You are Qianlong. Beasta stared at the visitor, wearing a grimace mask, tall and with a pair of black wings on his back. Even if it is not in dragon form, it still gives people a huge pressure. A pair of starry eyes beneath the mask issued a cold warning. What a strong arm, monster. Chowzi tried to break free from the opponent's wrist, and it was not until Qianlong took the initiative to let go that he was finally able to escape. Immediately pull back some distance. Quinn on the ground said in shock. Wait, how come Edie has the antidote? That's the poison gas I developed in the past few months. The antidote was prepared for everyone to take in advance. It's already been used up. Could it be that Edie cracked my poisonous gas in one night? Quinn murmured in disbelief. This is too shocking. The poison gas he spent several months developing was eliminated in one night. Qianlong said coldly. The exact time is 1 hour and 33 minutes, including the time to and from the Wado Research Institute. $. Stop talking, I don't want to hear it. This is worse than killing him. Ignoring Quinn who looked frustrated, Qianlong threw the antidote in his hand to Beasta. I've given you the antidote. If you still want to continue to act recklessly, I will be your opponent next. Hearing this, Beasta and Josie looked at each other, and Beasta immediately took the antidote and went to save people. Josie grinned. I am a shining person who ate the shining fruit, and I have the strongest defense in the world. As he spoke, his right arm turned into a diamond, sparkling in the morning sunlight. The next second, a punch was thrown towards Qianlong. Qianlong's eyes were cold and he took the opponent's blow without moving. The punch hit him in the chest and failed to knock him back. How hard? Josie was shaken and couldn't believe it. Qianlong flicked one arm, as if swatting a fly. With a snap, Chowzi was slapped and sent flying, rolling dozens of meters away. At the same time, in the forest along the coast. This place can no longer be called a forest. Tall trees fell down in pieces, as if they had been uprooted by some huge force. The earth is full of pits and cracks, with shocking cracks everywhere. The ground is devastated and a messy battlefield. Kaido in human animal form was breathing rapidly, and the mace in his hand was stained with blood, both his own and Whitebeard's. It's not enough anymore. Blood spilled from the corner of Whitebeard's mouth. Gu la 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 la. He's become a lot stronger than before, but he's still no match for me. If you want to run away, do it now, like a loach. Run away, Kaido. Oh, hey, aren't you going to kill me? Newgate, I'm still alive and kicking. Kaido sneered. Your men are almost wiped out. That level of combat power can be replenished at any time. With a cold snort, Kaido jumped up, brandished his mace, and unleashed a dark lightning coil. Zhang Sanshi, Yin Nai Luo. Seeing this, Whitebeard's eyes were sharp and he attacked from the bottom up. However, at this moment, enough. In the sky, a blue dragon broke through the morning clouds and spoke human words. At the same time, two dark figures entered the battlefield. Zishu blocked Whitebeard's Kong Yunchi with a knife. Wu Ma resisted Kaido's hook with one punch. Boom. Amidst the loud noise, the shock wave swept thousands of meters in radius. In the remaining forest, Countless vegetation and trees were uprooted, and the four conquerors' haki intertwined, causing a shock that seemed to tear apart space. This haki even spread to the Flower City, and the Wano-kuni inland sea boiled. Marco and Jin, who were fighting in midair, were both startled and stopped their attacks together. That's Dr. Edie. I really intervened. The two had completely different reactions. After a while, the medical wave gradually dissipated. Kaido looked at the unfamiliar mask blocking him and couldn't help but frown. Who are you? 12 earthly branches, Wu horse. Falling back to the ground, Kaido smiled. Can you finally take action? Edie. If you continue to fight, you will be beaten to death. Edie, the blue dragon in the sky, said calmly, that's it, Whitebeard. Kaido slaps his face hard. Who will be beaten to death? Whitebeard looked at the rat who blocked his attack. My previous feeling was indeed correct. This earthly branch is very strong. And he had some doubts in his heart. Why does it feel familiar? Anyone you know? He looked up at Qinglong Edie, and his heart became more and more shocked. The third dragon. What the hell is going on? Isn't this person's ability of the Paramecia space type? Before arriving at Wano-kuni, the other party erased his mobi with a snap of his fingers. No matter how you look at it, this is Paramecia. The blue dragon fruit has no such ability. Although the phantom beasts in Zone generally have special abilities other than strengthening their bodies, the blue dragon fruit will never be able to teleport to a ship. Whitebeard was extremely shocked. Eliminate all impossibilities, and the remaining one, no matter how unbelievable it is a fact. Edie has multiple devil fruit abilities. However, the most shocked person was not him, but an ordinary sailor who performed well in this war. A member of the 2nd Division, an inconspicuous man. Marshal D. Teach. He widened his eyes and looked at the dragon in the sky in disbelief. How is this possible? Could it be that this person is the same as Nonuo Jiao Mi? At this moment, no one is paying attention to a small character. Whitebeard took a deep breath, raised his head and asked, didn't you agree to quit the 10 kilometers? The outcome is decided between you. Edie, the green dragon, looked down at Whitebeard and said calmly, most of the beast's pirates are dead, so you should be satisfied. Don't push yourself too far, Whitebeard. What joke are you talking about? Whitebeard narrowed his eyes and said in a bad tone, in this sea, if you touch my people, you must pay the price with blood. Now that he has reached this point, he must kill Kaido. When Zishu heard this, he suddenly became excited. Heavenly Father, this old guy can't understand human language. Today is finally my turn. Qinglong Edie looked calm. I applaud your courage, Day. As a reward, Zishu will be your opponent. If you can defeat him, I will kill Kaido for you. If you lose, just bear the corresponding price. As soon as he finished speaking, the impatient Zishu launched an attack. God avoids. The sword slashed at Whitebeard, and the jet-black flying slash flew across a distance of tens of meters in an instant. Impossible. Whitebeard's pupils shrank suddenly, and his expression was horrified. Roger's move. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.